The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
7 minutes after 6 on this Thursday, the 12th of September 2024. Live from Auckland Park in Johannesburg to wherever you are hearing us from this morning, in every city, town, dorpy, village, hamlet and kasi, from the heartland to the hinterland. Good morning, South Africa. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM, and I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. Overnight, it was a busy evening for President Cyril Ramaphosa and his partners in the Government of National Unity. They took time to break bread together during a dinner last night. It was called a working dinner, and it was held in Cape Town. The president's office ahead of that dinner was telling us that part of what they wanted to do and what wanted to discuss at that dinner is to try and firm up dispute resolution mechanisms for the Government of National Unity, given the diversity of political parties that form part of that GNU and just their different strands in as far as ideology is concerned and priorities and ways of doing things. It's inevitable that there will be conflicts from time to time, and the President's office telling us that part of the conversation last night was about firming up a dispute resolution mechanism between the parties. And my goodness, do they need it? Because within the next 24 to 48 hours, the president is going to exercise a function that is standard for his office, signing bills into law, bills passed by Parliament into law. But one of those bills, in fact, the one bill that he has said is going to sign is the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill, known as BELA. And the DA is having none of it. They are not impressed at all. They are just one of the many parties and pockets of civil society that have criticized the Bella Bill. And so there is a conflict already there. We understand that there's been some conversations that have been happening between the president and the leader of the Democratic Alliance, John Steenhuisen, around the Bella Bill. We also heard from the Basic Education Minister, Siviwe Kwagube, and her own misgivings about the Bella Bill, but also saying that if it's signed into law, it becomes law and it would be implemented. So you can expect that to drive the conversation significantly. For his part, the president will be appearing before the National Council of Provinces this afternoon, and he will be answering questions in the NCOP, including around issues of infrastructure as well as the fight against extortion syndicates in the country. So that's coming up a bit later on in the day. But coming up in this show, the appointment of one Arnold Lesiba Malotana as the Gauteng Department of Health's new head of department is stirring a fair amount of controversy. We will look at that within this hour. In fact, that conversation coming up just before 7 a.m. We'll be talking to the chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Public Service and Administration, Jan de Villiers, who has asked the Public Service Commission to actually investigate whether the correct procedures were followed in appointing Malotana. A bit later on, we will talk about the municipal workers and the South African Local Government Association, representing about 257 municipalities across the country, may have inked an unprecedented 5-year wage agreement, but the mayor of Cape Town, Jordan Hill Lewis, is letting his unhappiness about that known, and he will be talking to us just after 7 a.m. And we have all of your regulars, and Musa with the news updates every half hour, Rob Byrne with your traffic every 15 minutes or so, Zaikan is watching your sport throughout the morning, and Ndauleng Lechela has your economics, business and market news covered. Sipho Mantula with your Africa update just before 8 a.m. And of course, we are taking your calls, and the number to dial for that is 086 000 2032. And the WhatsApp voice notes, you can send those to 061 410 4107. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM.
This September, S3 brings you thought-provoking nature dockies that will change the way in which you view the world. Prince William embarks on a global mission to ensure our world is left in a better place for future generations, championing action for the natural world and showcasing pioneering local heroes. Prince William, A Planet for Us All, airs Sunday the 15th of September. Channel your inner activist with our selection of premium dockies Sundays at 5 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
The breakers of the barriers have demonstrated that bravery, courage, and excellence often exceed any boundaries and limits. This exhilarating moment is the 19th edition to celebrate and honor the tangible impact of women in sport. Experience the Momentum G-Sport Awards 2024 on Thursday, 12 September at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and reports on SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to celebrate the rich tapestry of our nation's diverse cultures. From the vibrant beats of our traditional music to the flavors of our unique cuisines, every culture tells a story of strength, unity, and identity. We honor the heroes and heroines who laid down their lives for our freedom, reminding us that our shared heritage is what makes us strong. Together as one, we celebrate who we are because our culture is our identity. This Heritage Month, let's celebrate every culture, every story, and every voice. The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
Yeah, let's get that started. Let's check in with Ann Musa now for a check-in on the Daily Diary. Ann, good morning. And what do you have on your table this morning?
Good morning, Thulas. Well, we have reaction and analysis following threats made by the DA to leave the Government of National Unity, and that's if President Cyril Ramaphosa signs the Bela Bill tomorrow. John Steenhuisen will also address the Cape Town Press Club today, where he's expected to outline the DA's objectives, agenda and approach in the Government of National Unity, as well as provide some clarity on the party's stance on key national issues. We know that some South Africans have expressed mixed reactions to the Bela Bill, and critics of the bill arguing that it undermines the authority of school governing bodies. And staying in the Western Cape, teachers there beginning their protest against the proposed 2,400 job cuts that was announced by the provincial government and authorities, citing budget cuts from national government as a reason for its decision. Pastor Paseka Mboro Mutseneng's bid to be released on bail continues this morning. Yesterday, the National Prosecuting Authority failed in its bid to have the magistrate recuse herself, and Mboro and his bodyguard are facing charges of kidnapping, illegal possession of a firearm, as well as discharging a firearm. The issue of insufficient scholar transport in the Eastern Cape continues to impact rural areas there, with learners facing long, unsafe journeys that, sometimes leads to missed classes and a potential educational setbacks. And the High Court in Makanda and the Eastern Cape will today hear the matter between the Kula Development Project and 3 others, and that's against the MEC for Education in the province. And just lastly, the National Commissioner of the SAPS, General Fani Masimula, will brief the media today on the SAPS countrywide operations the past month, and he will be joined by the national head of the Hawks, Lieutenant General Godfrey Libia, who will also provide some feedback on its successes in the past month.
All right, thank you for that. And Musa has got your updates every half hour here on the Morning Brief from the news desk. And of course, that conversation around the Bella Bill is a major talking point today. And just after 7 a.m., we'll be talking to Professor Bram Fleisch, who is an education policy expert. We're trying to do the basics. Sometimes you've got to take a step back and do the basics. What does the bill, soon to be an act, provide for, and what does it not provide for, and what exactly is controversial about it? That conversation coming up at about 7:10.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
A check on your weather now as you get ready to start your day. 2 warnings for you. The first one is that yellow level 1 warning that damaging waves resulting in localized disruptions to roads, harbors and ports are expected between Cape St. Francis and Port Edward. There's also a fire danger warning, and it says extremely high fire danger conditions are expected over western and southern parts of the Northwest Province, extreme northeastern parts of the Northern Cape, northern and western parts of the Free State, southern parts of the Chris Hani local municipality of the Eastern Cape. The weather in general then, Pretoria is partly cloudy at times, otherwise fine with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 29. The expected UVB sunburn index in Pretoria is high. Johannesburg is partly cloudy at times, otherwise fine with a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 27. Vereeniging is fine, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon, 14 to 28. Mbombela is cloudy, becoming partly cloudy by the afternoon, and a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 29. Polokwane is cloudy in the morning, otherwise partly cloudy with a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 27. Mahikeng is partly cloudy and windy with a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 32. Vryburg is partly cloudy and windy with a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 33. Bloemfontein is partly cloudy and windy with isolated afternoon thunder showers, 8 to 29. Kimberley is fine with a minimum of 9 and a maximum of 31. Uppington is fine with a minimum of 6 and a maximum of 27. Cape Town is partly cloudy, becoming fine in the afternoon. The wind in Cape Town is light to moderate northerly to northwesterly. It's a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 17, and the expected UVB sunburn index in Cape Town is high. George is cloudy in the morning, otherwise partly cloudy. The wind is light and variable in the morning, otherwise moderate westerly to southwesterly with a minimum of 7 and a maximum of 20. Gqeberha is cloudy with scattered morning showers and rain, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon. The wind in Gqeberha is fresh to strong easterly, but light to moderate southerly in the afternoon. It's a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 23 in Gqeberha. East London is cloudy with scattered morning showers and rain, becoming partly cloudy in the evening. The wind is moderate to fresh easterly, and it's a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 24. Durban is partly cloudy with isolated afternoon showers and thunder showers. The wind is moderate to fresh northerly to northeasterly, becoming light and variable from the morning. It's a minimum of 17 and a maximum of 27. And the expected UVB sunburn index in Durban is very high. Richards Bay is partly cloudy with isolated afternoon showers and thunder showers. The wind is moderate to fresh northerly to northeasterly, reaching strong towards afternoon, and the minimum there in Richards Bay is 19 and the maximum is 31. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will see morning fog patches, otherwise partly cloudy with isolated afternoon showers and thunder showers. It's a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 34.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Open your mind to Life on Death Row, Thursdays at 9 p.m. and Resistance in a Hostile Environment, a 3-part documentary showcasing turning points which would go on to define race relations in the UK for a generation. Thursdays at 10 p.m. Wind down your weeknights with The Outlaws, Fridays at 9 p.m. and explore the world's most dangerous roads at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
Umkhonto kaShaka is fueled up to make their presence felt. However, 2016 champs Masandawana want to eliminate their neighbors from the continent's inter-club competition. This is the Southern African Derby, the second preliminary round of the Total Energies CAF Champions League. Experience great vibes of African football. Mbabane Swallows FC versus Mamelodi Sundowns FC. This Saturday, 14 September at 7:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international news.
Yeah, let's focus on this now. The desperate humanitarian situation in Gaza is again under the spotlight. This after Israeli forces reportedly launched an air raid on a school-turned-shelter in the Nuseirat camp in central Gaza. Estimates of the death toll range from between 14 and 18 people, including women, children and staff of the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA. Zinat Adam is the executive director at the Afro-Middle East Center and joins us now for that conversation. Zinat, good morning and thank you for your time. So just locate this particular incident for us within the bigger scheme of the fighting that has been happening in Gaza. It's said to have happened in central Gaza. Where is that in relation to zones, where humanitarian activity has been taking place to a certain extent?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and morning to the listeners. I think that although we have these zones that have been created by the Israelis, they have not adhered to it, and we saw that just a few days ago with the massive attack on the Masila refugee camp, which was a tented camp and declared by Israel as a safe zone. They dropped mass explosives, creating a crater, disintegrating human beings into smithereens. And when I say that, we're looking at headless bodies and bodiless heads, feet lying around of little children. So when we try and locate this and say, is this in a humanitarian area, and is this United Nations run school and refugee center that was just attacked a few hours ago, is this in a safe zone? Yes, these are safe created areas. It's almost as if Israel is trying to give a notice to the United Nations that, well, they've just inaugurated Palestine as a member of the General Assembly yesterday, and this seems to be a retaliatory attack in which 6 UNRWA members have been killed. Now, we need to also acknowledge that this war in Gaza, this genocide in Gaza, has resulted in 220 United Nations officials being killed. We've also seen that the humanitarian corridors have been blocked. We had a humanitarian aid convoy that was stopped and that was held by the Israeli military 2 days ago, preventing them from delivering much needed aid. So this is the context in which we're seeing things, and the negotiations seem to still be stalled towards a ceasefire.
Yeah, in fact, a tweet coming out from Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, saying, quote, "What's happening in Gaza is totally unacceptable. A school-turned-shelter for around 12,000 people was hit by Israeli airstrikes again today. 6 of our UNRWA colleagues are among those killed. These dramatic violations of international humanitarian law need to stop now," end quote. And that is a quote there from Antonio Guterres in a tweet that has come out in the last few hours. Talk to me a bit more, Zinat, then about UNRWA. It's not the first time that UNRWA has been caught up in this kind of military action by Israeli forces in Gaza. And I do recall seeing a controversy around Israel saying, actually, some of the people that work for UNRWA are affiliated to Hamas and the likes. So just locate that for me, that conversation about why UNRWA and UNRWA workers tend to find themselves under attack in many instances in Gaza.
Thulasizwe, we have to understand that this occupation is 75 years in the making, and UNRWA is one of the United Nations organizations that has been tasked with administering humanitarian aid within these regions and within Gaza in particular. In the last few years, and we're not just talking about the genocide of the 11 months that we're looking at right now, but in the last few years, UNRWA has been under attack by Israel. They have been defunded, or there has been pressure to defund them, to have them removed as the administrator of the humanitarian aid in this region. And allegations have been laid against UNRWA, which have actually been found to be untrue, of some of their workers being part of Hamas or Islamic Jihad. Now, that was proven that these allegations were untrue. Yet Israel has continued to attack United Nations humanitarian aid regions. Many of them are schools, many of them are hospitals, some of them are within the specific camps. And this makes it far more difficult to be able to continue to render that much needed humanitarian aid. In addition to that, if we look at some of the other humanitarian organizations, they have come under attack even after declaring to the Israelis that these are our movements, these are our vehicles that will be moving, this is the route that we'll be taking, and they have been attacked. We've seen that with numerous convoys. And I think that it's also worth pointing out this week, or just a few days ago, Save the Children also issued a report indicating that a number of children have been held in detention by Israel and are facing torture and are facing sexual assault. That's in addition to the bombardment and the killing of innocent children.
So, Zinat, these latest incidents, it goes without saying, I imagine, that they are being watched very closely from Pretoria, right? Because the South African government making it clear that they will be filing what is known as a memorial in international law, and this really is where you state your case to the fullest in terms of proving the allegation you are making, in this case, allegations of war crimes and violations of international humanitarian law.
Absolutely. South Africa has lodged the case at the ICJ and now have made the statement that they will be presenting the memorial very soon. And this means that the case will be moving forward a little more swiftly than we have seen in the recent months. But there is significant pressure from the Israeli lobby on the American Congress to apply additional pressure on South Africa to try and withdraw this case. And we've seen that from a report from the Israeli media, Axios. But there are also whisperings that this kind of pressure has been mounting in various corridors on our government. I think that it's worth acknowledging that South Africa is holding firm in taking the case forward and in having it heard at the ICJ. And I think this is in the interests of justice for all.
So if we were to draw parallels, and very briefly, to just make an example, would this memorial part now in the ICJ be the equivalent of what in domestic law, when you have what they call Part A and Part B, where you have interim relief and then you have permanent and fuller relief a bit later on? This would be the equivalent, would it not, in international law?
I think that would be a fair parallel
comparison
being drawn,
yeah.
A comparison, yeah.
All right, yeah. Zinat, I've got to thank you for your time. Zinat Adam is the Executive Director at the Afro-Middle East Center, joining us this morning for our international update here on the Morning Brief, bringing us to 6:30. Time to check in with N. Musa now with your news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the Mfuleni local municipality has promised to challenge Eskom's decision to attach the municipality's bank accounts to recover 8 billion rand in unpaid debt. Friends and supporters of former Public Enterprise Minister Pravin Gordhan have held a gathering at Constitutional Hill in Johannesburg to pray for his speedy recovery. And the former president of Peru, Alberto Fujimori, has died at the age of 86. Fujimori was accused of widespread human rights abuses. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Some heavy traffic into Joburg this morning using the Mike 1. It's a different traffic pattern. Normally you queue sort of through Crown and up towards Empire, but this morning there's a backlog into the Crown interchange. So looks like something may have happened there between Boysons and Crown. The N1's fairly heavy coming up from the Potch Highway, passing Devlin through the Deep Cliff interchange. If you're trying to get through and connect with Uncle Charlie's off the N12 and onto the Mike 1, so the N1 coming up to that N12, that's all quite heavily backed up. Bit of rain across Durban to watch for. Take it easy on wet and slippery roads. A crash in Hammersdale on your way to Peter Maritzburg. Right lane is closed. And a breakdown at Cliffdale on your way to Durban to watch out for as well. Cape Town Symphony Way, top end of Delft, to and from the Stellenbosch Arterial. Some very unusual traffic there, particularly northbound actually, moving up through Delft towards Stellenbosch Arterial, so we'll keep an eye on that. And Baden-Powell's got a little bit of traffic this morning, just moving out of Mitchell's Plain through towards Strandfontein Road. So just before you get to Strandfontein Road, there is a backlog of traffic Muizenberg bound. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, live and direct from the studio. I'm being dramatic. Zai, it can be easy holding the position of sporting director at one particular club from Naturena, especially with a surname like Motaung.
Oh, no pressure, right?
No pressure.
That's right.
Just a decade or something.
Just a decade
of
or
no.
Imagine.
Okay,
Speaking of decades, can they move up from the 10th spot? And I think that's what Kaizer Chiefs are hoping for.
Yeah.
That this is going to be their year. And they're moving fast. They're shaking things up before the window shuts. Will it be a golden move for Amakhosi to sign the Bafana winger Oswin Apollos? Time will tell. Now, this is according to Motaung Jr., that's Kaizer Motaung Jr., saying the club has been in talks with Polokwane City FC chairman Johnny Mokhaladi about that potential transfer. And we also have the Kaizer Chiefs defender, Given Msimango, saying how important it is for Amakhosi to hit the ground running when the new season starts this weekend. Following a dismal campaign last season where they finished 10th on the log, Amakhosi will kick off the 2024-25 season with a match against Marumo Gallants in Bloemfontein. That's on Saturday afternoon.
Of course, the team has made a lot of signings. The team felt they needed to strengthen our defensive line, and they've acquired 2 quality players, or 3, 4. Yeah, it's Bongani, Cross, Miguel, and Dudley. All quality players who want to add value to the team. We're gelling well together. They're all doing well respectively. So yeah, the team is doing well and we're happy to have them.
Elsewhere, Cristiano Ronaldo says Erik ten Hag's attitude is too negative, urging the Manchester United manager to target the Premier League title, even though the club need to rebuild from the bottom. The Portugal star, who now plays for Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia, fell out with ten Hag before his second spell at Old Trafford ended late in 2022. Ronaldo believes his former club needs sweeping changes, but that ten Hag should not rule out winning major trophies in the meantime. Now, the Arsenal captain, Martin Odegaard, is set to be out for at least 3 weeks with an ankle injury. Odegaard limped off during Norway's Nations League win over Austria, and on Tuesday, the 25-year-old midfielder returned to London where he underwent an MRI scan. Arsenal have said the manager, Mikel Arteta, will provide an update during his news conference. That's tomorrow before Sunday's North London derby at Tottenham. Rugby, Argentina have added a Vodacom URC winner to their 34-player squad for the Rugby Championship clash with the Springboks in Santiago. Los Pumas coach Felipe Contepomi announced a bolstered 34-man squad for next Saturday's match when Argentina will look to keep alive their hopes of a first-ever Rugby Championship title. Argentina will go into the match on the back of a record-breaking 67-27 victory over the Wallabies in Santa Fe, which lifted the Pumas to within 8 points of the log-leading Springboks with 2 games to go. And cricket action, Oshanda Fernando playing a second crucial innings, and that's helping Sri Lanka A overcome South Africa A by 6 wickets on the final day of the first unofficial test at the Kimberley Oval in Kimberley yesterday. The right-hander Fernando hit 122 in the first innings and made 80 of 122 balls on day 4 to carry his side to their 174-run target and into a 1-0 series lead. That's a wrap of your sport on the Morning Brief. More top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
There's sponsoring a news feature. Then there's helping your clients make the news. Search Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking to see how far they can take your business.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's bring in Daoling Lichela now for that. And Daoling, we're looking at the United States. The Federal Reserve meets next week amid high expectation for a rates cut, and there could have been no better signal, or perhaps something to force their hand, as it were, than the U.S. inflation numbers that are out for August.
That's right, Tula. So that all-important print out showing that inflation continues to slow. It eased to 2.5% last month from 2.9% recorded in July. There's another inflation print, of course, showing that consumer prices are moving closer to the Fed's target of 2%. On a monthly basis, though, consumer prices ticked up 0.2%. According to the bureau that conducts the data, the index from Shelter rose 0.5% in August, its highest level since the beginning of the year, and this was the most significant contributor to headline inflation. Now, while headline inflation came in mostly close to expectations, core inflation kind of spooked investors. Now, core inflation excludes food and energy prices, as it remained steady at 3.2% on a yearly basis, and it increased 0.3% between July and August. The monthly measure also marks the largest rise in 4 months, with most of this upside coming from the housing category. Now, this has ruled out bets for a big rate cut from the Fed, with most analysts now doubling down on that cut of 25 basis points come next Wednesday. The policymakers are still, analysts are still confident about the trajectory of inflation, pegging in a rate cut come next week. However, they are a bit worried about how big the rate cut will be.
Yeah, and of course, inflation and where it stood about 3.5 years ago compared to where it is now is a major talking point in the presidential race in the United States. Over in the United Kingdom, though, the economy there is not shooting the lights out with performance, is it?
It isn't. Now, the post-election recovery everyone was expecting is not coming to fruition. Well, not as fast as, I guess, people expected it would. That's as the UK economy stagnated in July, showing no growth at the start of the third quarter. Economists had expected growth of at least 0.2%, but those hopes were dashed. Zooming in on the print, a decline in manufacturing and buildings activities was balanced by a growth in the services sector, resulting in stable output. The services sector showed growth of 0.1%, while manufacturing production fell 0.8% and construction outputs slipped 0.4%. An economist at Capital Economics, Ruth Gregory, doesn't seem too worried about the stagnation, saying it doesn't mean the UK economy is on the cusp of a recession. This, of course, comes after that economy emerged from a shallow recession that hit in the second half of 2023, which was fueled by elevated inflation. Now that this print is in, many economists expect the Bank of England to lower rates next week. Initially, market participants anticipated another cut in November, but looking at how the economy is performing, many think policymakers will ease policy at the next meeting in an attempt to boost growth.
And just a look at Asian markets, the U.S. markets, as well as a recap of how things looked at the close at the JSE.
So markets ending in the green yesterday, with U.S. stocks starting in negative territory and retracing those losses by the end of trade. This was boosted by inflation that showed that it's nearing the Fed's 2% target. Tech shares led the gains, with the Nasdaq closing 2.1% higher. Asian markets, in the meantime, taking lead from its global peers, recovering from yesterday's downbeat end. We are seeing traders, they're also digesting that US CPI print. The data, of course, suggests we could see a rate cut, or the beginning, rather, of the rate cut cycle come next week. Back at home, the positive sentiment didn't really filter through as the JSE slipped into the red. The all share falling close to, or rather 1%, yes, 1% at the close. The rand also not faring well, with the dollar slightly strengthening and weighing on the local currency. It's back above the 1790 mark, trading at 1791 to the greenback.
All right, Ntauleng, thank you for that. We'll talk to Ntauleng again just after 7:30 with another update on all things business, economics, as well as the markets.
There's listening to the news. Then there's making the news. Grow your business into the next big thing with Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking. When you choose Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking, you get access to our transactional banking solutions. Accessing our transactional banking solutions means you'll get a dedicated manager from the country's best relationship bank. When you have a dedicated relationship manager, their business is to understand your business and its financial needs. By understanding all your needs, they can connect you with the right sector and product experts across 15 key African markets. You see, there's transactional banking, then there's transactional banking with us. Search Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAFM. Leading the conversation.
So a great deal of confusion surrounds the exact accreditation status of online schools to offer educational programs that would earn pupils the Umalusi-issued National Senior Certificate. The Education Quality Assurer Umalusi recently warned the public that it is aware of online schools claiming that their registration with an Umalusi accredited assessment body means that candidates from those online schools who write and pass the National Senior Certificate exams will be issued with a matric certificate. The body then went on to say that registration with an accredited assessment body does not automatically mean that Umalusi has agreed to issue certificates to candidates from an institution such as an online school, which is itself not directly accredited by Umalusi. It's a bit much to take in so early in the morning, so let's try and make sense of it all. And I'm joined now by Biki Lepota, who is a senior manager for communications and public relations at Umalusi. Good morning, Biki. Thank you for your time. So just take us a step back. What triggered this warning to the public about the registration status of these online schools? Was it the announcement by UNISA that their online school offering grade 10 and 11 is registered with the South African Comprehensive Assessment Institute and therefore would lead to certificates being issued by Umalusi?
Good morning, Thulas, and to the listeners of your radio station, and thank you for having us. Umalusi has for some time now been communicating with the members of the public in terms of what to look for in making a choice with regards to a school. There are two conditions for a school, an independent school, to operate in the country. That's in terms of the law. Condition number one is that the school, if it's an independent school, must be registered with the Provincial Education Department in which the school is located. After registering with the Provincial Education Department, they then approach Umalusi with a request for such a school to be accredited. That is what the law says. In the case of online school, Umalusi has been communicating with the public for some time now to say, before you make a choice, make sure that you do your homework. In the case of the UNISA Open School, they advertise on their website that from next year, 2025, they will be admitting grade 10 and 11 learners. So there's nothing wrong with that. Now the question is, are they registered with the Provincial Education Department? In terms of our homework, that is not the case. Are they accredited with Umalusi? In terms of what we know, we have not been approached by an online provider of education. It is for that reason that as a public institution, we are obliged to periodically communicate with members of the public to say what are the steps that you need to take before you make a decision to register yourself with an independent school.
So what are the implications of one, you're saying in terms of the UNISA online school, the question of whether they're registered with the Department of Education in a province, that you answer in the negative, and then you say you've also not been approached for registration of that school as Umalusi. What are the implications thereof then, if someone chooses to register their child for grade 10 and 11 with that school? Would they be able to write and obtain a national senior certificate from you?
No, in terms of the process, that will not be the case because they are not registered with the Provincial Education Department and they are not accredited. So it's for that reason that we are saying to people, make sure that you make a choice, an informed choice. In the case of UNISA, they are not registered. They were claiming that they were accredited by the South African Comprehensive Assessment Institute. And the South African Comprehensive Assessment Institute does not have the authority to accredit anyone. Even if that were to be the case, the South African Comprehensive Assessment Institute would then have to approach Umalusi with a request for a concession to say, we have been approached by such and such school, and for that reason we are making a request to Umalusi to consider granting concession to the school for the learners to be issued with a matric certificate if they are successful at the end of the day. That has not been the case.
How does the situation with the UNISA online school, certainly as far as you understand it as Umalusi, compare with the situation of the UCT online school, for example? And I'm citing it as one of those that have grown in prominence in the last few years, certainly from around the time of the lockdowns and the COVID-19 pandemic. How does the status and eligibility for obtaining an Umalusi issued matric certificate compare between the two institutions?
The difference between the UNISA Open School and the UCT Online is that the UNISA Open School has not been granted concession by Umalusi to administer examinations. In the case of the UCT Online School, there were processes put in place. The UCT Online School have got an arrangement in place with the South African Comprehensive Assessment Institute to have learners writing examinations under Sakai, and Sakai approached Umalusi with a request for concession, and such a concession has been granted. In the case of the UNISA Open School, that is not the case.
Lastly, Biggie, how prevalent is this situation where especially in the wake of online schools becoming a phenomenon in the country and growing in terms of people turning to online schooling, beyond just the UNISA Open School and UCT, how prevalent are issues such as the ones we are discussing?
Well, the open school phenomenon is a growing phenomenon, and it is for that reason that Umalusi is working with the Department of Basic Education to finalize regulation, because as we speak, there are no regulations to consider accrediting or registering online school. So in this case, the work is at an advanced stage in terms of the finalization of such a framework, which would enable the provincial education departments to register online schools, after which such schools would then have to approach Umalusi with a request for accreditation. It is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
We're simply saying we just need to have it formalized and regulated.
Biki, hold on for a moment. Let me bring in one of our callers, Mark, who has a question for you. Mark, good morning. You have a question for Umalusi around the registration of online schools.
Partly so, but I wanted to ask a question with regard to, I have a relative who's a lecturer at an institution, and he tells me that, the learners, they get like 40% when they do exams, when they do an in-house physical exam. But when they do the online exam, they're getting all 95%. And obviously there's an app that you can actually copy. It gives you all the answers and everything. So then I say to him, why then do you not bring it up? He said, I can never bring it up. They will kill me. These people will. Now, again, to follow this up, I'm in business, experienced the very same students coming to us with degrees, with certificates, and are absolutely clueless.
Yeah.
So what is Amalusi doing with the practical exam and also with relative to the online exam? Surely one cannot get 40% in exam, the written exam, and then online 95%. And every single institution is doing this. I'd like an answer from him. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mark. And I think just, Biki, as you answer, perhaps the example not necessarily relating to the basic education level, but it's relevant nonetheless, is it not? The opportunity and the possibility that cheating could occur in online exams settings?
In fact, the issue that Mark is raising is one of the issues that is on the table of Malusi, to say if you are operating an online institution, the question revolves around the reliability of the marks that students obtain throughout the year in the form of tests, in the form of assignments, and so on and so on. Because if you are not regulated, there will not be monitoring in place to vouch for the quality and the reliability of the marks obtained. So Mark is raising a very important issue. That it is for that reason that we say there are two conditions. You've got to register, and once you are registered, there will be monitoring, and then it's got to be accredited by Umalusi. And Umalusi has got his own way of monitoring what is going on in the schooling system.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That is Biki Liputa, who is a Senior Manager for Communications and Public Relations at Umalusi.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Heavy traffic into Joburg from the south today. If you come in from Lenasia, Crossmere, Eldorado Park, Protea, Glen, just a heads up, the N1 onto the N12 Diepkloof is very heavy. There's really some queuing pressure from the N12 Potch Highway onto the N1 North, all the way through Diepkloof interchange down towards Uncle Charlie's. You might want to think about a reroute through Devland and Southgate as your alternatives this morning. The N1, little crash on the side of the highway, just coming down to Brockfontein interchange, well off the highway, so it's really just a bit of onlooking, but watch that. Slowing traffic after John Foster Drive. Mopari Highway into Pretoria, very heavy this morning, queuing up from the Bend all the way down to SKM Pathlelly Drive. Durban, a broken down truck into north before Spaghetti Junction, roadworks after Spaghetti Junction long term, so it's all getting a bit busy there. If you drive Durban, Pietermaritzburg, heads up, the N3 will be closed again today, 2:30 until 3 p.m, a 30-minute full closure, Ashburton through to New England Road on the Pietermaritzburg side, so choose your travel times carefully around that. Cape Town, we've been keeping an eye on Baden-Powell Drive. It was quite windy again last night, so there's more sand that's blowing up onto Baden-Powell Drive. It's basically a road that runs through the beachfront, just around the coastal park, the landfill site there. So coming through from Strandfontein on your way to Muizenberg, obviously there is some traffic disruption. And the M5 has a different traffic pattern this morning. If you're coming in from Retreat and Grassy Park, quite heavy queues up through Southfield Parkwood on your way through towards the Wetton Road Bridge. Quite a big backlog on that M5 North. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. You love drama? Then step into the world of Luther as he cracks down on criminals terrorizing the streets of London Monday to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Top Gear will have you falling in love and rolling in laughter as Jeremy Clarkson and his team take you on an automotive journey like no other, Monday to Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up. S3.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
It is game on!
Game
Game On.
It is where the real lovers of the game dive deep into detail of the upcoming local and international fixtures. Join us on Game On as Mr. Sizwe, Click Click Bang Mabena and the legends zoom closer to the thrilling performance of the pitch personnel.
How was your favorite team's performance?
Find out on Game On every Saturday at 2 p.m. on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
To this story now, the appointment of Arnold Leseba Malutana as the Gauteng Department of Health's head of department is stirring a fair amount of controversy. The chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Public Service and Administration, Jan de Villiers, has asked the Public Service Commission to investigate whether correct procedures were followed in appointing Malutana. De Villiers questions whether proper processes were followed to verify whether Malutana holds the required master's degree. He also raises allegations that Malutana's appointment happened despite a special investigating unit probe into an alleged tender rigging scheme. Mr. de Villiers joins me now for that conversation. So, Mr. de Villiers, good morning. So what exactly is the basis of your discomfort with Mr. Malutana's appointment?
Good morning, sir. Good morning to your listeners. I must maybe just explain that as the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee in Parliament on Public Service and Administration, it is not my duty to try and judge the facts. What my duty is I have received a complaint from a whistleblower with these allegations against Mr. Malutana, and what I have done, as is my duty as the chairperson of the Parliamentary Committee, is to take these allegations and refer them to the Public Service Commission, whose constitutional obligation it is to investigate allegations of this kind and then establish the facts. And then once the facts have been established, which is yet to be seen, the Public Service Commission will then recommend a course of action to myself and my committee. And that course of action might be that we should not do anything, that there was nothing to be worried about, or it could be that there was irregularities in the
Mr. de Villiers? We're battling with your line there.
Health. Yes.
Yeah, we've got you now. We've got you back. We've got you back now. So I imagine, though, that you receive a lot of complaints in your position and tip-offs from whistleblowers and the likes. I imagine then that you must have seen something in this particular one that said to you it's worth elevating to the level of asking the Public Service Commission to investigate. What I'm asking is, do you believe that there's a possibility that the Premier and whatever processes were followed, they did not cross their T's and dot their I's ahead of this appointment?
So that's an excellent question. And the reality is that I don't receive enough of these complaints. I have to just also mention that I'm a new chairperson, that I've been recently elected to this position. And this is only the third complaint I've received of this nature. But all of them, I'm hoping that the public will come to our committee more often and lay complaints about any appointments in the state service and the public administration, because that is our duty as the Portfolio Committee, to do oversight over appointments where merit-based appointments were not done, or there were any irregularities in the appointment. But as to the actual facts of this matter, it is impossible for me to say whether there has been any irregularities in Mr. Malutana's appointment. All I can do is refer it to the PSC, to the Public Service Commission, and they will do a proper investigation and establish the facts.
All right. I've got to thank you for your time and insights this morning. That is Mr. Jan de Villiers, who is the chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Public Service and Administration, joining us here on the Morning Brief and bringing us, well, before I go there, I've got to say, though, that naturally the next doors to knock on for us will be the Gauteng Provincial Government Office of the Premier Department of Health, as well as the Public Service Commission. It's 7 a.m. Let's check in with Ann Musa with the latest news.
In our top stories, Mfuleni Municipality to challenge Eskom attaching its bank accounts, and EFF speaks out on employers defaulting on pension payments. Good morning. The Mfuleni local municipality has promised to challenge Eskom's decision to attach the municipality's bank accounts to recover 8 billion rand in unpaid debt. Eskom's decision comes after the municipality failed to comply with the debt relief program. The power utility says it has exhausted all legal avenues to secure payment since 2018. However, the municipality says it believes all necessary steps to find a solution were not allowed. Mfuleni's MMC for Finance and Revenue, Hassan Maku.
Eskom is not its competency to announce that we have not adhered to the debt relief conditions. It is National Treasury that is supposed to communicate such a message. However, over and above, we do acknowledge the debt, but the bullying tactics that Eskom is using will definitely affect us, and it will affect residents as well, because attachments of bank accounts means we cannot transact and maintain whatever it is that we're supposed to do on a daily basis.
Meanwhile, Marcus says the amount Eskom stated as being owed by the municipality is inaccurate. He says they've paid some of the debt.
Eskom has actually used an old rate of execution as far as I'm concerned, and the amounts stipulated there over a period of 3 years are not a true reflection. We have been able to pay about 3 billion, and it's also concerning that all those particular areas have not yet been dealt with.
Friends and supporters of former Public Enterprise Minister Pravin Gordhan have held a gathering at Constitutional Hill in Johannesburg to pray for his speedy recovery. It follows a statement by his family on Tuesday night that he had been hospitalized. The reason for his hospitalization was not disclosed. However, his family said he's receiving the best available medical care. Gordhan retired from active politics and public office at the end of the term of the 6th administration following the May elections. Here's the view of a supporter.
The whole area of having been a very important revolutionary and the kind of role he played then. And then the second has been his role that he played in formal government. So both those roles, he had a formidable influence on society. Just a little bit about the role he played in the past. I know him from the 70s, so I'm getting quite old. But in the 70s, he was part of the student movement, part of the student action there, part of reviving the NIC and trying to create in the NIC a mass organization.
EFF Member of Parliament Sinau Tambo says it's distressing that it took the introduction of the two-pot system for the pension fund adjudicator to raise the alarm about the pension funds of workers. Mubango Lukaimane indicated that the introduction of the retirement system will expose the extent of employers' failure to pay their employees' contributions to pension fund schemes. The system, which kicked off this month, allows workers to withdraw funds from their pension and provident fund savings while still employed. Tambo says they've raised the issue since January, but it was not attended to.
It was discovered that 172 local government municipalities have also not been compliant for periods also ranging from 6 to 240 months. So respectively, municipalities owe 1 billion to pension funds and private security companies owe 6 billion. That's a total of 7 billion of workers' money that is unaccounted for. We wrote to the Minister of Finance in February to alert him of this crisis and to urge him to conduct the necessary audits and compliance measures over municipalities and private security companies to ensure that they pay back workers' money. And it's unfortunate now that it took the two-part system to come into place where there's a semblance of mass resignations and mass retirements that now puts these pension funds under pressure.
Further afield, and finally, the former president of Peru, Alberto Fujimori, has died at the age of 86. Fujimori was accused of widespread human rights abuses. He was a dual Peruvian-Japanese national who governed Peru for 10 years between 1990 and 2000. The BBC's Danny Eberhard looks back at his life.
Born to Japanese immigrant parents, Alberto Fujimori's origins were humble. He emerged from relative obscurity in academia to win the presidency. A political maverick, his early years in power saw notable successes. He liberalised the economy and ended Peru's hyperinflation, and he cracked down on a crippling left-wing insurgency, to all intents and purposes defeating groups like the Shining Path. But critics lambasted what they saw as his increasingly authoritarian tendencies, and Mr. Fujimori's presidency became mired ever deeper in scandal, ending when he fled into exile in Japan. Later he was extradited from Chile, tried and imprisoned on a series of counts, including corruption and involvement in death squad massacres.
Recapping the top story, the Mfuleni local municipality has promised to challenge Eskom's decision to attach the municipality's bank accounts to recover 8 billion rand in unpaid debt. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Heavy traffic into Joburg from the south this morning. The N1 is really packed from the N12 Potch Highway all the way out through Devlin, through the Diepkloof interchange and onto the N12. So if you normally come from Crossmere, Lenasia, Protea Glen, you use the N1 to get down to Uncle Charlie's. Maybe select an alternative route this morning and avoid a big backlog. N12 and R24 routes already queuing into Giluli's interchange coming in from the Ekurhuleni side. Mampoti Highway queuing all the way back to the Hairpin Bend, right through to Eske and Pathlali. So that's a busy one. The stationary truck on Durban's N2 North is out of the way. That was broken down before Spaghetti Junction. Traffic is heavy, but it's normal heavy. M7 from Hunstepman going up into Pinetown. That route is just getting busier by the day. There's some heavy pressure already up to St John's Avenue Bridge and just a little bit beyond. And sand again on Baden-Powell Drive, Coastal Park area. So Strandfontein to Muizenberg being held up. And unusual queues on the M5 coming in from the south. Looks like something around the Wetton Bridge area. Backlogs there to sort of Southfield and Park. Just north of Grassy Park is where you'll pick up a long queue. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM Sports headlines. Let's look at the Paralympian Simone Kruger arriving home to South Africa after her golden win. And in Formula One, Max Verstappen aims to break his winless streak as Red Bull battle back in Baku. All this and more at around 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
8 minutes past 7 on this Thursday, the 12th of September, 2024. Good morning, South Africa. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM. Coming up in this hour, we'll be focusing on the so-called Bella Bill. This is the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill, which President Cyril Ramaphosa has made clear that he is going to sign into law tomorrow. This despite vociferous opposition from many quarters, including some of the parties in the government of national unity, especially the Democratic Alliance. We will unpack what the Bella Bill provides for, what it doesn't provide for, and what the controversy is all about, and try to be on the same page ahead of the signing of this piece of legislation. Well, at the same time, the President's office says he will apply his mind to the report that he was provided by the embattled Minister of Justice, Thembi Simelane, regarding a R500,000 rand loan that she says she received from a company that facilitated the Polokwane municipality's unlawful investment into VBS Bank. That's the President, though. But the Limpopo ANC, it would seem, actually is wanting to see accountability from Thembi Simelane. The Limpopo Provincial Secretary, Ruben Madaje, will join me in this hour to talk about that and their calls for accountability around the issue of VBS. We have all of your regulars within this hour, and Musa with your news updates every half hour. Rob Byrne with regular traffic updates. Zai Khan watching your sport throughout the morning. And Ndauleng Lechela also has your economics, business and market news covered. You can give us a call, and the number to dial, and we'll engage you in conversation. That number is 086 000 2032. 086 000 2032. Also, you can alternatively send us a WhatsApp voice note and we'll play that out on air and engage with it. And the number there is 061 410 4107. This is the morning brief on SAFM.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
So President Cyril Ramaphosa is set to sign the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill, BELA, into law tomorrow. The President's office says he will sign the legislation into law at a public ceremony at the Union buildings. The imminent signing comes despite widespread opposition to the bill among some opposition political parties, sections of civil society and teacher formations. For its part, Action SA says it will consider legal action if the President assents to the bill, which it describes as fatally flawed, while the education activist Hendrik Makaneta is urging the President to ensure that the bill is compliant with the Constitution before signing it. Ahead of the President appending his signature to it and making it into law, we thought we'd give you the ABCs of the BELA bill. For that, we turn to Bram Fleisch, who is an education policy expert. Bram, good morning and thank you for your time. So, can we read anything, and I suppose this is not a directly policy question, but can we read anything into the fact that the President plans to sign the bill into law at a very public ceremony? He doesn't have to do that. He could have sat behind his desk at Union buildings and signed it, but he wants to make it public when he's signing it. This against the backdrop of opposition to the bill by many, including the DA within the Government of National Unity.
So I really can't comment on the optics of the signing ceremony itself. It's a domain of political scientists. But I can talk to you specifically about the amendment bill itself and some of the provisions, if you'd like.
Perfectly fine. I'm happy with that. I thought I would throw it to you, but it's okay if you are uncomfortable commenting on that. Let's get straight then to the substance of it. The President says the bill amends sections of the South African Schools Act 1996 and the Employment of Educators Act 1998 and gives effect to court judgments. What are the main thrusts of the BELA bill about to become an act that address these issues that the President has highlighted?
So a close reading of the bill would suggest that there are many different sections that are actually being amended. Some of them are relatively minor, others are very substantial, or not necessarily substantial, but are important. We need to recognize, for example, that the bill, and when it becomes law, will make grade R compulsory. It also extends the definition of basic education in line with a constitutional court judgment. It addresses some of the issues related to corporal punishment, and it also addresses some of the issues related to homeschooling. So there's a range of issues that are addressed in the amendment, and we need to remember that the 1996 South African Schools Act has been amended many times over the last 28 years or so. So this is not an unusual occurrence. And what the notion that it is in line with the Constitution and the Constitutional Court judgment is a very important part. And part of it has to do with a number of different Constitutional Court judgments that have been handed down by the courts over the last 15 years.
Yeah. Bram, I think a great, summation of what are some of the main provisions. But I'd like you to talk to one specific one, which seems to be at the heart of many of the criticisms of BELA, and that has to do with the setting of a school's language policy. A lot has been said about that, including allegations that it may actually violate the Constitution in as far as the right to being educated in one's mother tongue is concerned. What exactly does the bill provide for in terms of the powers of the minister versus a school governing body with regard to language policy?
So the provision is not specific to the minister, it's to the MEC and it gives the head of department or the provincial head of department oversight for language policy. So in the final analysis, the head of department has the final determination of school language policy. So that is a very significant shift from the existing policy, but it needs to be seen in the context of two very important cases. The one is the Rivonia case, Rivonia Primary, and the other one was the Ermelo case, Hoërskool Ermelo. And Ermelo particularly was very instructive, although the decision was finally in favor of the school governing body. At the time, Justice Moseneke made some very important insights about the question about language policy in school. And what he said in that judgment, in the Ermelo judgment, was that schools need to be thinking not just about the existing students in the school, but the wider interests of the community. And they sent back the decision to the school to amend the policy to ensure that the wider interests of language are aligned to the changing demographic profile of the community served by the school. So we need to recognize that not just in historically Afrikaans medium schools, but schools across the country. And we know that there are examples of schools in Soweto, which may historically been Sesotho language schools, where many children who are at the schools now have other home languages, and that the schools may be reluctant to change their language policy. We need to make sure that provincial governments have oversight over that, so that all children in the vicinity have their language policy, their language addressed.
And another provision that I've seen being reported on and being criticized has to do with the lifting of a ban on the sale of alcohol at schools. What exactly is that provision? What does it provide for?
So there are extramural activities. There have historically been some concerns about the sale of alcohol. There's been a prohibition in the legislation that there should be no alcohol at school events. And obviously that's an issue, particularly for schools that do make some extra funds for the school governing body at these events.
Oh, I see. So that has to do specifically with events and the selling of alcohol at events in schools. Finally, Bram, let's check on the limits. There's a criticism that says the bill, and when it becomes an act, it will limit a parent's ability to decide whether to homeschool their children. Does it do that?
So there has been and always has been provisions for control over homeschooling. A situation where parents have unfettered right to homeschool obviously may potentially prejudice a child. So there needs to be strengthening of oversight so that no child is prejudiced by parents that don't necessarily have the qualifications or the expertise. And there needs to be some monitoring of the quality of provision that's actually happening within the context of the home. So it's just strengthening to ensure that children's rights are not being violated.
All right, I've got to thank you. Very insightful inputs there. That's Bram Fleisch, who is an education policy expert, weighing in. Now you've heard from Bram the details of what the Bella Bill provides for and what it doesn't provide for. Do engage with us on that and make your inputs known ahead of the signing into law of the Bella Basic Education Laws Amendment. From tomorrow, it will become an act, no longer a bill, after President Cyril Ramaphosa signs it into law at a very public ceremony at the Union Buildings.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. You love drama? Then step into the world of Luther as he cracks down on criminals terrorizing the streets of London Monday to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Top Gear will have you falling in love and rolling in laughter as Jeremy Clarkson and his team take you on an automotive journey like no other, Monday to Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
S3. The future of education is here. Impact offers two paths to the future. Design your own homeschooling journey with Impact Homeschooling, or let our experienced teachers guide the way with the Impact Online School. Get quality future-forward education.
Visit www.impact.co.za today to register for 2025.
The breakers of the barriers have demonstrated that bravery, courage, and excellence often exceed any boundaries and limits. This exhilarating moment is the 19th edition to celebrate and honor the tangible impact of women in sport. Experience the Momentum G Sport Awards 2024 on Thursday, 12 September at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and reports on SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
To this now, municipal workers and the South African Local Government Association, SALGA, representing about 257 municipalities across the country, may have inked an unprecedented 5-year wage agreement, but the mayor of Cape Town, Jordan Hill-Lewis, is letting known his unhappiness with the deal. The deal, hailed by Municipal Worker Union SAMU as the first of its kind in the country's history, will see wage increases of about 6% in the first year, followed by inflation plus 0.75% in the second and third year, and then inflation plus 1.25% for the subsequent 2 years. Hill-Lewis is warning of dire financial consequences for municipalities and, by extension, ratepayers. He joins me now to take that conversation forward. So, Jordan Hill-Lewis, good morning and thank you for your time. What exactly is the source of your unhappiness with the wage deal?
Well, I recognize that it is unprecedented to have a 5-year deal, and that does allow a little bit more certainty for municipalities to do their financial planning, because usually we plan on 3-year wage deals. Now we have a 5-year wage deal. So there is some certainty. But if you look at those outer years and you look at those inflation plus increases, those actually add up very quickly and they start to compound into huge sums of money. In Cape Town, we've calculated that the difference between inflation and inflation plus increases under this deal is 2 billion rand, 2.04 billion rand over the 5 years. Now, the fact is that 2.04 billion has to be paid for. And there are really only a handful of ways in which it can be paid for. It can be paid for with higher local rates and taxes, or it can be paid for by laying off certain staff and cutting vacancies, or it can be paid for by cutting service standards. Those are the only 3 ways that it can be paid for. And I want the public to be mindful and aware of the consequences and implications of signing above inflation wage deals. Very few people in South Africa get even inflation increases at the moment. But to get above inflation wage deals when you're planning 5 years in advance is, I think, quite generous.
So from what I saw from your writing, the message to Cape Town residents is that as things stand, you would more than likely be looking at an increase in rates and taxes?
I think that's probably one of the implications in the outer years. Not in this year, because 6% is manageable. That's what we budgeted for. But in the outer years, when those numbers start to stack up and you're facing a R1 billion shortfall in the 5th year, for example, you can't make that up by cutting and trimming here and there. You can only make that up by either increasing local taxes or by laying off, reducing headcount. Neither of which is positive for the public. So I just wanted to raise a word of caution. When everyone is celebrating a 5-year deal, I'm not sure. I understand the stability argument, but I'm not sure that it's all celebration.
Yeah, and in fact, you were one of a handful of municipalities that opposed the deal in the collective bargaining process. But of course, it then becomes applicable whether you agreed to it or not from the whole process. Correct. In fact, you have said these words, quote, "The nature of centralized bargaining means that our ability to shield local residents in Cape Town from these increases is now diminished," end quote. But that's just how centralized bargaining works. Why do you feel you need to make that point?
Well, because very few people in South Africa know exactly how centralized bargaining works. So if you talk to residents and you say, well, we oppose the wage deal, so they say, well, then why are you paying the increases? So you've got to explain that actually whether you opposed it is not material. Once you've reached a threshold and the majority of municipalities have signed up, it applies to everyone, whether you oppose it or not. It's important for the public to know that.
Yeah. So let's talk about something else, Jordan. Just your reaction to the arrest and appearance in court of Malusi Boy, the former mayoral committee member for human settlements. Let me put it to you this way. Are you willing, in the wake of the events around Malusi Boy, are you willing to accept as the DA that his very appointment represents a failure of your party's vetting of political office bearers? The equivalent of cadre deployment, if you will.
No. That's not. It's a million miles from cadre deployment. It's got nothing to do with cadre deployment at all. Thulasizwe.
Okay.
He was an elected representative. He stood for election and was elected through the party structures. When I got the news from the police back in March of 2023 last year that they had significant evidence against him, I saw some of that evidence. They wouldn't show me everything, but they showed me enough to scare the daylights out of me. And I fired him immediately the next day. So he's already been fired for 18 months already. Before that, when he was appointed, remember, I insisted that all of the MACO members go through a lifestyle audit, and he went through a lifestyle audit, and he actually passed his lifestyle audit. So we have had to go and look and see how did he pass it, and how do you hide the movement of cash and so on, so that you get past the auditors, and we've now had to make that a much more invasive and kind of snooping exercise to try and get to exactly what people are doing, all the tricks that they're using. But to be honest with you, the feeling I feel is sadness. This is a very charismatic person with enormous potential, I think, and I really thought that he had the potential to go very far in South African politics, and it gives me no joy to see what's happened to him. I really feel a sense of sadness. I feel a sense of sadness that there's a potential that he obviously really lied to me, and I felt that I trusted him, and I feel sadness that he's made these choices which, if they are true and the state can prove their case, will obviously destroy his life.
And just on another matter that has to do with the problem buildings program that you have in the city of Cape Town and how it links to other crimes such as extortion. Of course, Cape Town is flagged as Cape Town, the Western Cape, from the police statistics and narratives around the crimes of extortion, is flagged as one of those regions where that problem rears its ugly head quite significantly. Just talk to me about efforts on your side as the city of Cape Town with your law enforcement infrastructure to respond particularly to the crime of extortion.
Yes, well, just quickly on problem buildings, the first part of your question, we meet every single 30 days and we go through our list of problem buildings in the city, and we are taking very, very firm legal action to deal with each of those problem buildings. We've recently had significant progress from PRASA, who owns many of those problem buildings. Next week, I'm seeing the Minister of Public Works. I'm taking him to see a lot of his problem buildings. So we're really pushing all of those levels of government to deal with their buildings that are turning into slums. Then on extortion, yes, this is really keeping us up at night. Every project is impacted, and it impacts on those residents in poorer communities the worst, because it is their projects that are being first attacked. So we've done what we can in terms of instituting very big rewards. We pay huge rewards, and that helps to get people to talk and share information with us. We have a 24-hour hotline where people can report information and report cases of extortion, and we will try and help, even if it is just someone's a fruit seller on the side of the road, or a meat seller, if they are facing extortion, to report it to us so that we can start to build up evidence and try to help them. We really do need, and this is the most critical point for South Africa to deal with this issue at the moment. We do need SAP's crime intelligence to start regarding this as a very serious matter at a national level, because the person who shows up at your construction site or at your building with a gun is not the real person. That's what you call the muscle. That's just a guy that's the enforcer. The person who's running that operation is sitting somewhere in luxury and collecting the money. That's the guy you got to get. You got to find the money flows and hunt them down. And SAP's crime intelligence can do that.
Yeah, and the implications for national stability and security are too dire to contemplate. That is the Cape Town Mayor, Jordan Hill-Lewis, joining us here on the Morning Brief, talking about initially the issues around the wage increase agreement for 5 years with municipal workers, touched a bit on Malusi Boy, his arrest and his appearance in court, as well as the crime of extortion and problem buildings in the city of Cape Town. And that brings us to 7:30, time for us to check in with Ann Musa with the latest headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, 7 people have been killed at high flats in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands overnight. Police spokesperson Robert Nechundas confirmed children were among the victims who were massacred in one house. The Mfuleni local municipality has promised to challenge Eskom's decision to attach the municipality's bank accounts to recover 8 billion rand in unpaid debt. And police in Canada say a 1941 portrait of the British wartime leader Winston Churchill, stolen from a hotel 2 years ago, has been located in Italy. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Driving north into Joburg from southern parts this morning, still very busy. It is starting to ease, but there's a lot of traffic this morning from El Dorado Park up through Deepcliff interchange. So we're talking N1 north onto the N12 for turn down to Uncle Charlie's. Mike White is stationary from Buccleuch down towards Marlborough Drive on your way slowly to Sandton. N1 jam-packed Brockfontein to New Road. A lot of traffic on that run through today. Pretoria side, the N4 queuing Vartamar Street through to the N1 highway. Durban, that looks like an issue on the Southern Freeway coming in from Jacobs up in towards that Clarewood area. Just a little bit of a slowdown. That's traffic heading slowly towards the M7. The M7 itself, Hunstedman up over St John's Avenue Bridge into Pinetown stays solid. Cape Town, Sandon, Baden, Powell Coastal Park, so delays hitting that as you come through from Strandfontein. And the Mike 5, the M5 has a different traffic pattern today. If you come in from Muizenberg, Retreat, Grassy Park, there's a really big backlog from Parkwood all the way up through Ottery Road and up towards Wetton Road Bridge. Ottery Road into the M5, coming in from Ottery, Philippi area, quite heavy as well. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
All right, Zai, so we're looking at the return of Simone Kruger coming back with gold.
Yes, Tula. Simone Kruger got us spinning with pride. Really?
Sorry, Zai. I actually, as I said it, isn't it pronounced Kruger in Afrikaans? It's not Kruger. Like you and I say Kruger, it's Kruger.
I know.
Yeah.
I have a friend who doesn't call Krugersdorp.
It's Kruger.
Krugersdorp. She calls it Krugersdorp.
Krugersdorp, yeah.
Yes. Oh, well, there we go.
So, Simone Kruger.
Pure gold. That's it. That's how we're going for it. Now, she's South Africa's gold medalist. She's one of 2 gold medalists for South Africa. She arrived back from the French capital yesterday. The 19-year-old discus thrower owns the full house, Tulas, the world record, the world title, the Paralympic record, and the Paralympic gold medal. What a future she has in front of her, a golden future indeed. And the pressure for her was quite intense when she headed over to the Paralympics in Paris. And this after her first Paralympics in Tokyo 3 years ago didn't go her way. She only managed to finish in 5th position. But this year, she definitely flagged South Africa's flag high. Let's go to soccer. Kaizer Chiefs Sporting Director Kaizer Motaung Jr. has admitted that the club, they're still interested in bringing Bafana winger Oswin Apollos to the club. Motaung Jr. says the club has been in talks with Polokwane City FC chairman, that's Johnny Mokhaladi, about a potential transfer. With the PSL transfer window closing on the 20th of September, time seems to be running out for Chiefs with their move. Boxing and the Canelo Alvarez fight, well, he'll defend his super middleweight title against Edgar Berlanga. That's on the 14th of September in Las Vegas as he returns for another fight during the Mexican Independence Day weekend. Now, the Mexican superstar Alvarez has had a number of his biggest bouts around his country's holiday, including all 3 of his fights against Gennady Golovkin. But this time, Balanga, who won his first 16 pro fights by first-round knockouts, has shown some explosive power, and he's ready to take on Canelo Alvarez. Here's the challenger, Edgar Balanga.
You know, I'm a knockout artist, right? So every fighter wants to knock out. You know, who don't want to knock out? Everybody wants to knock somebody out, right? But, you know, we know that he's a legend, and we know that we can't go in there and just trying to swing for the fence on him. You know what I'm saying? He got great IQ. He's intelligent. So we got to do it the right way. You know, 6-round knockout, yeah, that's what we're going for. You know, and if it comes, it comes. But if we got to go the whole 12, then we're doing that as well.
Let's go to golf. Spain's John Rahm wants to play 3 European golf events before the end of the year to maintain his Ryder Cup eligibility. But he says he won't pay the fines levied by the DP World Tour over his Live Golf participation. The 2-time major winner who joined Live Golf last year is facing a deadline to pay the fines imposed by the DP World Tour on golfers who failed to obtain releases to play in Live Tour events. Now, as Rahm prepares for the Live Golf tournament in Chicago this week, he's hoping to play 2 events in his homeland, the Spanish Open and the Andalusia Masters, and in the Dunhill Links Championship. Let's hear from John Rahm.
I'm not a big fan of the fines. I think I've been outspoken about that. I don't intend to pay the fines, and we keep trying to have a discussion with them about how we can make this happen. I've said many times, I don't go to the Spanish Open for the glory or anything else. I think it's my duty to Spanish golf to be there. And I also want to play in Soto Grande. So at that point, they would almost be doing not only me, but Spanish golf a disservice by not letting me play.
And finally, Formula One, Max Verstappen determined to get back on top as Red Bull heads to the Azerbaijan Grand Prix this weekend. After a 6-race winless streak, Verstappen and teammate Sergio Perez are working hard to turn things around and keep their lead in the Formula One Championship. Perez, a 2-time winner in Baku, is confident that the street circuit will suit his style, while Red Bull is looking to fend off challenges for McLaren and Ferrari, with the title race heating up. All eyes are on the streets of Baku. More sport, top of the hour. I'm Sai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Yeah, for that, let's check in with Ndauling Lichela. And Ndauling, you're looking at Growth Point, the country's largest property group, right?
Yes.
And they've got numbers out as well as talking about offloading some of their property.
Yes, now let's start with that. Now, Growth Point is planning to dispose of more properties as it attempts to improve the quality of its portfolio by selling its non-core assets. Now, in the past year, the company sold about 19 properties in South Africa for 1.2 billion rand. It plans to sell even more properties worth 2.8 billion in its 2025 financial year. So far, it's disposed of 17 SA properties, including 3 office properties for 907 million rand. We have seen a trend of lower rentals in office properties when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, when we saw a shift to work from home. So a number of property companies have been trying to either sell or kind of reinvent their property portfolios and their office property portfolios, and Growth Point is one of those groups. Now, the property group says the funds from the sales will help it shore up its balance sheet, which has been weaker as it struggles with high interest rates. Most property players have taken a knock on the back of elevated rates. This also resulted in the group recording a 10% decline in distributable earnings or income and a 10% decline as well in its dividends. The group, however, says this has nothing to do with its operational performance, but rather a reflection of the current macroeconomic environment. Growth Point's star performer, V&A Waterfront, continued to shine, benefiting from local and international tourism. The group also managed to improve its rental reversion rates, valuations, and vacancies, especially in its retail property.
Yeah. Staying with company news, Super Group is saying that local infrastructure issues are weighing on its earnings.
So Supergroup is one of the many companies that are unhappy with the decline of Durban. Now, South Africa's third largest city is an important connection point for trade with many ports of the world, but problems at Transnet have caused delays and congestion. And this has led nearby ports like Maputo to grow rapidly as they try to meet the needs of the region's growing economy. Now, the logistics company, Supergroup, says this has hindered growth over its annual period. Profits were down 26%. In South Africa, the company was hit by those infrastructure issues, a weak currency, frequent power and water outages, and problems with transportation. In Europe, the main obstacles to growth were the ongoing conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East, which drove up food and energy prices. Looking ahead, we are seeing that overall macro picture improve with slowing inflation globally, but here at home, the power crisis seems to be under control, and Transnet is making progress with that turnaround strategy. Despite this, Supergroup says it expects infrastructural challenges to persist, citing border delays and slow turnaround times at local ports. It says this will continue to hamper its growth, especially in its industrial and commodity businesses.
And Asian markets, the US futures and the JSE, just a recap on those.
So investors have become more confident and willing to take risks after seeing the latest U.S. inflation numbers for August, which suggests that the Fed will lower rates soon. As a result, stock markets in Asia shot up, resulting in the biggest increase in that stock market index in almost a month. The Japanese Nikkei leading the gains, up 3.3%. While Hong Kong's Hang Seng jumped 1.1%. Meanwhile, in Wall Street, futures are in the green, extending gains recorded overnight. There seems to be a shift following that print, with global sentiment much more positive today. Looking at the JSE, some might say that the global rally hit markets after our close, and so we'll probably only see gains in the local bourse today. Recapping yesterday's performance, though, the all-share shed 1%. The losses were driven by the financial 15, which was down 1.6%. The rand, in the meantime, making slight gains, still trading in a tight range, though. It's at 17.89 to the dollar from about 17.91 an hour ago.
All right, I've got to thank you for that. Let's catch up a bit later on with Ndauleng Lechela with an update just before the opening of the JSE, and that's after 8:30 here on the Morning Brief.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Advocate Sipho Mantula joins me for that, our daily Africa Update. And Sipho, good morning to you. The President of Egypt and the President of Germany, not the Chancellor. You've always got to remind yourself of the distinction. They are meeting, and the situation in Gaza is foremost in their minds.
Refreshing morning to us and even to the listeners, Jumbo Africa. Indeed, yesterday, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi welcomed the President Frank-Walter Steinmeier from Germany on a 3-day visit. Others are saying the first visit of the German President to Egypt in almost 25 years. As you said, what is the talking points in that meeting is the issue around humanitarian crisis in the Middle East, around the victims, which are mostly women and children. It's also look at their cooperation between Egypt and Germany in terms of economic changes, development, military support. As you know, that Germany has been supporting many African countries on the military support. Last week we spoke about Addis Ababa, Germany contributing money to Addis. Now we see them moving towards the north. And in their meeting, they have engaged about the issue of Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, about his conduct, his even behavior. So this meeting of minds between Egypt and Germany, very important because it's a presidential visit.
And in Algeria, you and I have been talking about the election for some time, and it's important for us to follow that story. We talked a few days ago about how even the winner, the incumbent, had questions about the election results, and it seems now opposition candidates are taking that outcome on challenge.
Absolutely, they are taking this electoral dispute to the courts now because their law provides that 10 days after results have been announced, you can still take the matter to the courts. Now, the two candidates have taken the matter to the Algerian highest court of the land to challenge this outcome. Remember, this is an outcome that gave the Bon 94.7% of the vote. And they are raising issues of the tallying, as we have been saying. So it is interesting to look how will this court outcome pan out. As we know, electoral dispute or presidential disputes, they are sometimes biased when you think of this. The president who appoints the chief justice, and they'll be lenient towards the president. But let's see what will this presidential petition pan out ultimately in Algiers.
All right, I like this story out of Lagos in Nigeria, a Pan-African AI conference, and many countries, delegates from over 30 countries attending there. What's that about?
Plus, this new buzzword, artificial intelligence, which in some instances others they are saying, but are there any legal issues around it? Is there any creativity or innovation? And whenever you see artificial intelligence, you must link it to the U.S. Now, this conference is co-hosted by the government of Nigeria, co-hosted with the U.S. They are looking at the technological future in the continent. As you are aware that most of the exports, most of the things that have been done lately in the business environment, in the sectors of development, people are moving towards this artificial intelligence. Hence, in that meeting, you have the tech leaders, academics, policymakers, and entrepreneurs, how to deal with what they call opportunities and challenge raised by this artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it is a fascinating topic, including such topics as AI liability for delicts and the like, AI inventorship, South Africa being one of the only country I'm aware of that recognized AI as an inventor of a technology. To this now, in Zambia and Zimbabwe, there are issues with Lake Kariba, and they have implications for the power supply in Zimbabwe.
That's quite true. On Saturday, Zambia will be facing what they call the 21-hour power cuts because of the hydropower plant in Lake Kariba. Once you don't have enough water, understand that you'll always have challenge for energy or for electricity. Now, both Zambia and Zimbabwe, we know that they are sharing both Lake Kariba. And that's where the issue of generating of power, very important, that this dam is a primary source of electricity to both countries. Zambia only generating 98 watts, Zimbabwe only 240 megawatts. So it is important when you think of, well, if you don't have rain, if you don't have enough water supply in Lake Kariba, definitely you will be having power cuts. So Zambia and Zimbabwe, they are facing that challenge as Lake Kariba dries up.
And then lastly, Raz, purely coincidentally, I woke up this morning. I had played Peter Gabriel's Biko a few days ago. And for some reason, as I switched on the car, it started playing exactly that song. And it's a significant date, is it not, today?
Indeed, it is. When you think of 47 years ago when the founding father of the SASO and the Black Consciousness leader, Stephen Bantu Biko, was killed 47 years ago in 1977. But I link it with Namibia, and you will see, too, that's why I link this archive, because Advocate Anthony Luboski, who was the Secretary General of SWAPO, was also assassinated 85 years ago on the 12th of September 1989. Both their cases went to the TRC. So that's how you can link how the apartheid forces was able to kill the founder of the Black Consciousness, the Secretary General of SWAPO, on the 12th of September 1989. Very interesting. And Biko, there will always be commemorations, but we still don't have Biko Day in this country as a public holiday. There are many activities coming from Tshwane where Biko was jailed. There's a celebration in Kabeja. I saw Advocate Ngokaitobi will be speaking also. And so there are many activities when you think of Biko Day.
Sorry, man, you cut off for a moment there, but I've got to thank you for that update. That's Sipho Mantula, the happy, well, I don't want to say happy Biko Day. Let's say a reflective commemoration of Biko Day for you, Advocate Sipho Mantula there, with your Africa update on the morning brief on SAFM.
Put a spring in your step with the Espresso Morning Show.
That's right. Join us for fresh ideas, blooming trends, and vibrant tunes that are sure to brighten your day.
Discover the best ways to enjoy this season's beauty, from garden tips to spring fashion.
Come on now. Plus, get inspired with lively interviews and my favorite, the latest in entertainment.
Basically, start your mornings right with us. That's weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. only on S3.
The world's best football league makes its return to S3. Will Arsenal finally win their first title since 2004? Or will Man City continue their dominance of the league and win their 7th title under Pep Guardiola? Will the Dutchman in Erik ten Hag and Arne Slot have something to say as Man United and Liverpool step in to contest for the title? But it's not only about winning the title. For some of the 20 teams, it's a chance to improve on their performances from last season. While for others, it's the battle to avoid relegation and stay in the top flight. Every team has a point to prove. This is not just football. This is a masterpiece being played out every weekend. Channel your best sport with the English Premier League. Saturdays at 3 p.m. on S3. Open up.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, we were tracking some heavy delays in from Malaysia, Protea Glenside this morning up the N1 through Deepcliff Interchange. I'm glad to report that it's all cleared and the route getting better by the minute, actually. Not such clear conditions on the Mike 1 from Boyson's all the way through this morning to Oxford Road in Parktown. Behind that, the M2 queuing from Joe Slow. It's a very heavy run on that Mike 1 around Central Joburg heading north. Houghton Drive, you're going to be asked to queue there through the Wilds. So big backlogs coming up in towards the Mike 1 highway as well. William Mandela down through Hurlingham, Republic Road into William Mandela. That's all heavy. So Bryson and Randburg on your way to into Santinal being held up. And the N4 driving into Pretoria, quite heavy queues. Big backlogs there from Vitamer Street through towards the N1. Durban, there's been a crash on the M7. This is Bluff bound just at the N2. So heavy back up that hill to Queensborough from Belleville Road, heading down the M7 towards the N2. It's all badly backed up. A breakdown on the Southern Freeway at Clarewood causing some delays, and there's been a crash heading out of town on the N3 at Spaghetti Junction. So from Sherwood, that's all looking a bit busy as well. Bit of mist around Camperdown and Cato Ridge, so drive carefully in those areas, please, this morning. And Cape Town, Baden-Powell Drive with Sand at Coastal Park, still slow from Strandfontein direction Muizenberg. The M5 still queuing heavily from Grassy Park as you come into sort of Southfield and Parkwood, from there up towards that Wetton Road Bridge. It's a very unusual backlog on that section of roadway this morning. And the N7 fully loaded, passing Lunga towards Beaufort Circle, and then through Four Trekker Road, more delays, and then big delays the other side of Four Trekker up towards the busy Bosmansdam off-ramp. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This September, S3 brings you thought-provoking nature dockies that will change the way in which you view the world. Prince William embarks on a global mission to ensure our world is left in a better place for future generations, championing action for the natural world and showcasing pioneering local heroes. Prince William, A Planet for Us All, airs Sunday the 15th of September. Channel your inner activist with our selection of premium dockies Sundays at 5 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
For years, Outsurance has been saying they'll save you money on your car insurance, or you can ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand cash if they don't. Here's Fundi, 46 from Brackenfell.
I was not happy with what I was paying. I heard about the 500 Rand from Outsurance, but they give me lesser amount for my car. I'm paying 523 Rand on my 2013 Hyundai iX35.
So here's how it works. SMS out to 30754. We'll give you a no-obligation car insurance quote. If the quote is less than you're currently paying, you'll end up saving money on your car insurance every month. And if it's more than you're currently paying, you can ask for 500 Rand. And if you've been with the same insurer and claim free for 3 years or more, tell us you want 1,500 Rand.
Give Outsurance a call. It's a win-win. You can't lose.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and limits apply. Premiums are risk profile dependent and reviewed annually. Client comments do not constitute financial advice.
Unlock a world of benefits. Welcome to SABC's TV License Rewards program. Ready to make your viewing experience more rewarding? Say hello to perks that go beyond just watching TV. Join us today at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za and instantly receive your first reward. But wait, there's more. You can get up to 500 Rand back. Become part of something bigger, a movement where watching TV isn't just a hobby. It's a catalyst for positive change. Register now at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za and open the door to a world of benefits. Plus, every time you tune in, you're making a difference. T's and C's apply. Remember, TV license fees aren't just payments, they make a difference.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So President Cyril Ramaphosa's office says he will apply his mind to the report he received from the embattled Justice Minister Thembi Simelane regarding a R500,000 loan she received from a company that had facilitated the Polokwane municipality's unlawful investment into VBS Bank while Simelane was mayor there. Presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya says the president will not engage the issue in the public domain, but will consider all facts before making a determination. But it would seem Simelane's constituency in the ANC, the party's Limpopo chapter, is not prepared to be as patient and is calling for those implicated in the VBS Mutual Bank scandal, including Simelane, to face legal consequences. The party's Limpopo Provincial Secretary Ruben Madaje joins me now for that conversation. Womsanda, good morning and thank you for your time. The president says he's applying his mind, having received the report. The public has also seen Thembi Simelane, the minister, responding in Parliament last week. Are you or are you not appeased as the ANC in Limpopo that the matter is being adequately and appropriately handled?
Thank you very much, Thulasizwe and the listeners of SAFM. Good morning. I think our stance is that those members and leaders who have directly or indirectly contributed to the collapse of the bank should face the full mighty of the law. That's the view of the PEC of Limpopo since the broke of this matter of the VBS. It has never, our stance has never changed. And with regards to the issue that has to do with the minister, I think the appropriate authorities will deal with that matter. We reaffirm our stance with regards to the issue of the bank, and our view is that there is a need for the resuscitation and the reapplication of the license.
Yeah, for the bank, for VBS Mutual Bank. But when you say those who, quote unquote, directly or indirectly contributed to the collapse of the bank, is Thembi Simelane, the Minister of Justice, in your view, as the ANC in Limpopo, one of those?
No, we don't have any facts and also any information at our disposal that suggests that she is also part of those people, because the only report that we have ourselves as the province is the report that was penned down by Advocate Kerry Mutau. And in that report, we don't see her name featuring there. So from where we are sitting as Limpopo, until such time that there will be certain information that is presented to us, we will then be able to ventilate and also provide the statement with regard to that. But as things stand now, we don't have any facts except something that we read from the newspapers and from we hear from yourselves as journalists.
What's your take around the ethics infrastructure of the ANC kicking into gear? the Integrity Committee being one of those, and we're told that, Thembi Simelane will appear or has appeared before that committee, or in fact will appear. And also the step-aside policy. Should that be kicking in now?
No, we can't jump the gun. What we can just indicate is that those processes are being handled at national level, and it will be premature for the province to ventilate on the matter which is sitting with the Secretary General. It will be very unfortunate if the national office is handling the matter and the province at the same time is making comment on the very same matter.
Okay, lastly, what about the timing of some of these mechanisms kicking into gear? Today is the 12th of September. From what I've seen, a special NEC meeting is scheduled for the 28th of September, where that issue will be dealt with. Are you satisfied with that, or does it seem a bit far to you?
From where we're sitting as the province, we only, in terms of the constitution of the ANC, we are only mandated to deal with issues that affect us as a province, and issues that affect other structures. We need to allow those structures to ventilate on those matters, like the matter of a Minister of Justice. I would appeal with you that we allow the Secretary General to handle the matter, because in terms of the Constitution, he is empowered to do so.
All right. I've got to thank you, Wamsanda. That is the Provincial Secretary of the ANC in Limpopo, Ruben Madaje, joining us here on the Morning Brief on SAFM. It's 8 a.m. and it's time now for a news update with Ann Musa.
In our top stories, 7 people shot and killed in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands and Emfuleni municipality to challenge Eskom attaching its bank accounts. Good morning. 7 people have been killed in a shooting at high flats in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands overnight. Police spokesperson Robert Nechiunda has confirmed children were among the victims were massacred in one house. Premier Tamin Tuli has called on police in the province to leave no stone unturned to bring the perpetrators to book. Top police officials and provincial leaders are expected to visit the scene today. The Emfuleni local municipality has promised to challenge Eskom's decision to attach the municipality's bank accounts to recover 8 billion rand in unpaid debt. Eskom's decision comes after the municipality failed to comply with a debt relief program. The power utility says it has exhausted all legal avenues to secure payments since 2018. However, the municipality says it believes all necessary steps to find a solution were not followed. Emfuleni's MMC for Finance and Revenue, Hassan Maku.
Eskom is not its competency to announce that we have not adhered to the debt relief conditions. It is National Treasury that is supposed to communicate such a message. However, over and above, we do acknowledge the debt, but the bullying tactics that Eskom is using will definitely affect us, and it will affect residents as well, because attachments of bank accounts means we cannot transact and maintain whatever it is that we're supposed to do on a daily basis.
Meanwhile, Marcus says the amount Eskom stated as being owed by the municipality is inaccurate. He says they've paid some of the debt.
Eskom has actually used an old rate of execution as far as I'm concerned, and the amounts stipulated there over a period of 3 years are not a true reflection. We have been able to pay about 3 billion. And it's also concerning that all those particular areas have not yet been dealt with.
The DA has retained 16 wards in by-elections held yesterday. The by-elections were held in Gauteng, Free State, KwaZulu-Natal, Mpumalanga and the Northwest Province. 80 candidates from 15 political parties contested in these by-elections across the country. Sibahle Mota reports.
The results from the by-elections held in 23 municipal wards across 5 provinces show that the DA has retained 16 wards in provinces such as the Free State, KwaZulu-Natal and the Northwest. While the ANC has retained 4 wards, it has lost Reinkonyeni to the Umkhonto party in KwaZulu-Natal. Meanwhile, the IFP has retained a ward in Gandla, while Al-Jama has also secured 1 ward in the city of Johannesburg.
Further field, and finally, police in Canada say a famous 1941 portrait of the British wartime leader Winston Churchill, stolen from a hotel in Ottawa 2 years ago, has been located in Italy. The BBC's Kat Wiener reports.
The iconic roaring lion image was taken by the renowned portrait photographer Yusuf Karsh when Churchill addressed the Canadian Parliament during the Second World War. It hung in the reading room of the Fairmont Chateau Laurier Hotel in Ottawa for decades until it was taken and replaced by a fake. Staff noticed the original was missing months later in August 2022. Ottawa police say the global hunt for the photo was one of the most complicated cases they'd ever worked on, involving forensic analysis, tips from the public and support from international organisations. The much reproduced photograph is one of the most famous images of the British Prime Minister and features on the £5 note.
Recapping the top stories, 7 people have been killed in a shooting at high flats in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands overnight. Police spokesperson Robert Nichundas confirmed that children were among the victims who were massacred in one house. For SAFM News, I am Ann Musa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
We're tracking heavy delays on Joburg's Mike 1 this morning from Gold Reef City area all the way through to Parktown. It was very heavily congested. There's now been a crash there just up by the Oxford Road exit, so that is not going to help matters. That's going to keep things absolutely jammed on the run north through the Crown into Parktown. Behind that, the M2 stays solid from Joe Slovo Drive. Breakdown on the N3 north at Modderfontein Road, so some quite heavy pressure building up on the run through Galuli's interchange. Durban, a crash on the M7, that is Pinetown bound at the N2 highway. Quite a significant backlog towards Queensborough. There's also been a crash around Paradise Valley on your way out of Durban to watch for, and pretty misty conditions for this hour around Cato Ridge and Camperdown up towards Umlost Road. Drive carefully between Pietermaritzburg and Durban. The poor visibility, of course, in the construction zones as well. Cape Town's M5 that we've been talking about this morning up to Wetton Road, that is starting to ease up, and there's some pressure still on the N7 going north out of Goodwood, queues up towards the busy Bosman's Dam Road off-ramp. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's rugby. The Springboks are looking forward to taking on Argentina. That's this Saturday. We also have the Premier Soccer League announcing that this season's MTN8 final will be held at Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban. Details around 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Good morning, South Africa. We are into the third hour of the morning brief on this Thursday, and it's good to have you with us. We've been having a wide range of conversations over the last 2 hours or so. In the last conversation we had just before 8 a.m., we were talking about the position of the ANC in Limpopo in as far as the issue of VBS is concerned. This as President Cyril Ramaphosa says he will apply his mind to the report he received from the embattled Justice Minister Thembi Simelane regarding a R500,000 loan that she received from that company called Gundo, which had facilitated the investment by Polokwane Municipality of some money into VBS while Simelane was mayor in Polokwane. We also had a conversation in the last hour about the wage agreement, the five-year wage agreement that was struck between SALGA and municipal workers. Jordan Hill-Lewis, who is the mayor of Cape Town, voicing his concerns about the impact that he says will result from above inflation increases in as far as municipal finances are concerned, and basically warning that one of the routes to try and fund this increase, certainly in the latter years, may have to be an increase in rates and taxes for ratepayers. Of course, the conversation around the Bella Bill, the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill, on the cusp and on the verge of becoming an act as soon as President Cyril Ramaphosa signs it into law at a public ceremony at the Union Buildings tomorrow. There's lots of reaction to that, and indeed we will play some of your reactions to the news of the president preparing to sign the bill into law. So we begin this third hour with that, and we will be wanting to take your calls and your voice notes and engage with you, leading the conversation here on SAFM. For that, you can call us on 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032. Also, you can send us a WhatsApp voice note, and the number to do that is 061 410 4107, 061 410 4107. This is the morning brief on SAFM.
The varsity derby between Amatats ladies and UWC ladies will display who are the brighter students. UWC target the top spot, while Amatats want to break into the top 3. This is the Hollywood Best Super League. Catch Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. University of Pretoria Ladies FC versus University of the Western Cape Ladies FC on Sunday, 15 September at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 1. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Are you shopping around for the best car insurance deal on the market? 46-year-old Zanele got a great deal on her car insurance when she called Outsurance. She now pays only 1,313 Rand to insure her white 2023 Audi Q2 1.4T FSI S-Line S-Tronic. Get an Outsurance quote and see if you could save. SMS OUT to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Licensed insurer and FSP, T's and C's online.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Hey Thulas, so while your guest from Cape Town explains to the residents that there's been high increases, he must not forget to also explain that the city of Cape Town, according to the Salga report, pays the highest wages in municipal workers. Thanks, Sibonke here.
And that is Melanie. This is Malapile from Tembis. I would like to comment on this issue of the retirement, workers' retirement. I think it is better for people to go and claim their monies now rather than later, because it is clear that some of these employers are not contributing. Now you can imagine if maybe you go there and try to claim your monies and then you find there's nothing. It is bad. So for me, I think it is good for people to go and make their claims. Thank you.
Morning to Thulasizwe and SA listeners. Mhlekazi, can you please tell me what is happening in Mzansi? Because according to me, in fact, the way I know it, everything is supposed to be done prior to your appointment. So if we'll have managers, your DGs, that their qualifications are doubted, where are we going to as a country? BP Emadadiel.
Yeah, VP, I mean, I think it's only fair that we follow up on the issues that were raised around the appointment of the new HOD in the Department of Health in Gauteng, because it does seem that there are some questions that we need to pose to the Premier, the Office of the Premier, as well as the Department of Health around the processes and the vetting of qualifications and whether or not there is an investigation around that new appointee following those questions being raised by the chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Public Service and Administration. The comment from Bongi about Cape Town paying the highest wages per the report that you cite, and I think that's part of what Jordan Hill-Lewis addressed, to say as a percentage of what we are already paying, the percentage of a small amount is still something that is significant going forward. So when you say that they pay the highest wages, I guess that's partly where their concern comes from, that a percentage of the highest wages can actually add up in the outer years of this 5-year agreement. And Malapele, I don't know, there's a cap to the amounts that people can claim, of course, under the new two-pot system. So that would be the hindrance there to people claiming all their monies now, as you suggest. Let's take some of your calls and speak to Gift in the Eastern Cape. Gift, you want to talk about the Bella Bill. What do you want to say about it? Because it's on the cusp of being signed by the President.
Look, good morning and good morning to your listeners at home. Look, I'm just a bit perturbed by the stance of the deal. In fact, it was always expected that they are the political undertakers of transformation in our country, because for the record, and I think this is what is missing in the media in articulating this issue of Bella Bill. What is always narrated in media is the stance of the DA, and for the record, Thulasizwe. And I think people must understand that the Bella Bill affirms the protection of the constitutional rights of learners in schools, amongst others, the issue of abolishing corporal punishment and making grade R the compulsory entry point into basic education for all children. And that's the first point. Importantly, Thulasizwe, the bill will include penalties for parents who fail to ensure that their children are in school. And so why people are against that? Because this is going to address the issue of literacy in our country, but most importantly, the bill will eliminate the loophole that has been exploited by some conservative SGBs in some of those white schools who exclude learners based on language, which in fact, by the way, has been used as a proxy for racial exclusion. So I don't understand why the DA is against this transformation bill, which is going to erode the exclusion of historically disadvantaged communities in our schools.
Yeah, and Gift, that's why we thought we'd get Bram Fleisch a bit earlier on in the hour of 7 there to just give the ABCs without any commentary and weighing in. Let people understand what does it provide for, what does it not provide for, and then people can make up their minds whether or not to support it. That is Gift in the Eastern Cape there, weighing in on the Bella Bill. Let's go to Thomas. And Thomas, you are in Newcastle. You want to talk about Eskom and Mfuleni. My goodness, this municipality has been battled since I was a junior reporter here at the SABC, and now I'm graying, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better.
You're right, Makuta. I hope you're keeping well, Makuta.
I am. I hope you're keeping well too.
We are. You know, Mr. Makuta, the biggest problem that I have personally is this: that the person that spoke on behalf of Eskom this morning on Mr. Presley's what we call program.
Yes.
He says something that gives me trouble, Mr. Tula. He says the Eskom guys are doing the thing wrong. And to me, he's there and anyone else is there to be taking Mfuleni out of there. They come in knowing that Mfuleni is in trouble. I mean, this has been, like you say, for days. And they get employed, get given a package, and one of the things that they say is, no, we will turn the thing around. And they don't turn it around. They keep making promises to Eskom, and they abuse the regulations that are there, that the municipality must not have this happen to them. They must not be put in such a way that the community is suffering and all that. Why they get that? Because they get employed. I mean, Western Cape, we all are complaining about Western Cape. Go look at how much delivery is happening.
Yeah.
And the problem that is with Western Cape in terms of Western Cape taking care of white people only and wanting a kind of... This is a narrative that has been given by our politicians because they cannot justify the success of the Western Cape.
All right, Thomas, I've got to leave it there. That is Thomas there weighing in on the issue of Eskom and Mfuleni, as well as the other systemic issues that have to do with running that municipality and perhaps trying to turn it around. Let's speak to Ndlovu, who is out in the Eastern Cape. And Ndlovu, you also want to weigh in on the Bella Bill. Good morning.
Good morning, Thulas, and good morning to the listeners. First of all, congratulations, Thulas, on your new, not so new job.
Thank you.
Yes, I've been following you since days in ENCA and all that.
Sure.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you very much.
Now, Tulas, the hype about this Bella bill. I'm glad that you are saying you are going to invite somebody to talk about this thing so that the air is cleared around this matter. But still on that one, I'm a little bit concerned, Tulas, if people are going to hype about a bill as if it's going to solve the problems that we're having in the department. I'm a school teacher. If the bill is going to solve Tulas problems such as security in schools, I'm in the Eastern Cape just 2 weeks ago, in my very own district, a principal was gunned down inside the school premises. There is no security in that school. And many other schools for that matter in the district, and in other districts for that matter. Is this bill going to solve those problems to us? Is this bill going to solve the problems of infrastructure in the province of the Eastern Cape and other provinces? To us, I'm always amazed at the level of slow development of infrastructure in our very own province.
Yeah.
I live in Kokstad, which is in KZN, but I teach in the Eastern Cape, just a cross-border matter. I always wonder, why is it our own province in the Eastern Cape, for instance, the level of infrastructure, school infrastructure, is so slow to develop compared to what we see every day in KZN. For instance, there's a new school that has just been established here in Kokstad about 4 years ago, a new high school. I'm telling you, that school is going to open a brand new infrastructure beginning of next year. And what's happening in our very own Eastern Cape, there were schools built established in the 90s. They are not built up to today. So is this bill going to solve those problems? Is this bill going to solve the problem of shortage of teachers? And all that.
Just to engage you a little bit before I let you go, Ndlovu, I suppose the counter argument will be to say that we can't take a position that says until we've fixed everything, we can't fix anything, right? In this approach to teaching, and you would know better than I do, that it's a matter of the hardware as well as the software. And I suppose the bill, those who support it will say it's aimed at the software in terms of the content of what is being taught.
Look to us. The bill says something about corporal punishment. Do you know when corporal punishment was abolished in this country, to us?
Was it 1997? 96, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
but why is it now something that's mentioned now in the new bill?
I hear you, Ndlovu. And I suppose one of the counter-arguments, of course, as I let you go, would be that corporal punishment has been taking place in some schools despite the ban having come all those many years ago. But I've got to leave it there. That is Ndlovu out in the Eastern Cape there talking about the Bella Bill, which President Ramaphosa has said he will sign into law tomorrow at the Union Buildings.
When self-made billionaire Wilton Knight rescues police detective Lieutenant Michael Long after a near-fatal shot to the face, he gives him a new identity and a new name, Michael Knight. Paired with the unique Knight Industries 2000 aka kit, they are brought in during situations where direct action might provide the only feasible solution. Kusazo Shuba and Michael Knight and Kit are ready to rise to the occasion. Channel your best retro with Knight Rider, weekdays at 12 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
The breakers of the barriers have demonstrated that bravery, courage, and excellence often exceed any boundaries and limits. This exhilarating moment is the 19th edition to celebrate and honor the tangible impact of women in sport. Experience the Momentum G Sport Awards 2024 on Thursday, 12 September at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and reports on SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The Science of Life on SAFM.
So scientists at the University of the Western Cape have scored a major coup for the country's space research when they observed and captured the dwarf planet Pluto's recent passage in front of a distant star in an event called occultation. The group of scientists were part of an international mission funded by NASA. It aims to glean data about its atmosphere and chemical composition. They managed to capture the moment of Pluto's occultation, but not without challenges that uniquely had to do with the conditions on our planet. UWC full professor of physics Nico Oss joins me now for that. Prof, good morning. Thank you for your time. Tell me about the mission. You were part of an international mission funded by NASA. What did you have to do? What is this occultation in relation to the planet, the dwarf planet Pluto?
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. We were given the possibility to work with colleagues at NASA. Obviously, we took it. We are nuclear physicists by training, but at that time there was a big astronomy conference, so we were the only ones who could help at the time of the occultation. So we used our labs and we make things happen. Actually, it was a very good thing that they came to us because we have a very good laboratory for taking care of anything. Astronomy, nuclear physics, material science. You know, we have all different laboratories. So they came at the right place, and we fixed the telescope. The telescope was a little bit too short, so the focal point was a little bit off. So this telescope was donated to UWC, and it was sent from the University of Virginia. NASA is the funding agency of everything. But you know, it was a beautiful thing to be useful, you know, and help them accomplishing the mission, right? Then we went to the Northern Cape, and then there was a lot of. It was a cloudy day, so luckily the sky is open a little bit, so we could see the star and we could see Pluto's occultation. But right at the time that this was happening, then a sudden wind came through and it shook the telescope a little bit, so there was a lot of noise, and it was difficult to identify whether the flash actually has come or not. We are still cleaning up the data, and let's see whether we can actually get any information about the atmosphere.
I saw two of the pictures you shared following that event, the occultation, and I was jokingly, in my mind, I was thinking this was the Earth being jealous for all the attention that you are giving Pluto. But how does this help you understand Pluto's atmosphere and chemical composition?
Well, we are looking for that flash. That flash is the light from the star, from the faint star behind Pluto. It refracts on Pluto's atmosphere, and the way it refracts, it happened to tell us about, whether Pluto's atmosphere is getting frozen or not. It tells us about the temperature and chemical composition of Pluto's atmosphere. So that flash that happened during the occultation, right at the dead center of Pluto. We have to go to Uppington to be at the center of Pluto's shadow as it crosses through the Earth, right? It's a very interesting mission because you need the timing and the precise timing and the precise place. So it was a challenge, but I think we did our best. Let's see whether we can get the information about the atmosphere. But still, so far, we haven't got the final results.
How do missions like these contribute to South Africa's space research, astrophysics and the likes, also in the context of the Square Kilometre Array and the role that South Africa plays in astronomy there? And I heard, I think about 2 years ago, talk about South Africa playing a role in the NASA mission called Artemis to send humans back to the moon again.
Right. So all of this is South Africa has a long history of astronomy. Even Nelson Mandela, he built the Southern African Large Telescope, which still remains the largest telescope in the Southern Hemisphere. So these occultations, they use a smaller telescope that we can move around, but they use the same techniques as for the largest telescope. So the students get trained on these particular missions, but also they get trained onto the bigger picture of being part of the astronomy community in South Africa. And not only that, they can also see, because we are interested in the nuclear physics, right? So there's a synergy there on how elements are created in stellar explosions. So all these things connected to make the bigger discoveries,
All right. I've got to leave it there. Professor Nico Oz, congratulations to you and your team. And you can see those pictures. Just search for it, Pluto, Western Cape University, and it will come up and you'll be able to see some of the pictures that they were able to take of the event called Occultation.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Morning, Thulas. Thulas, I don't understand why the DA is complaining about the Bella bill. I, as a former teacher, I think it's a very good legislation because some of us have, especially those who've worked in the Western Cape as teachers, those governing bodies have actually treated us very badly. So I am for it. The DA is, I don't know what they want, but I just hope Ramaphosa for a change can grow his spine and sign this thing. Thank you, Stan.
All right, let's quickly talk to Letabile, who is out in Limpopo. And Letabile, you want to talk about VBS. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Thulasizwe and the rest of your listeners. Yes, I want to highlight on the issue raised by the provincial secretary of the ANC in Limpopo, particularly the issue of VBS. Our feelings as citizens of Limpopo is that the ANC is raising substandard or double standard on the issue of VBS because they are speaking directly to someone who's in the national, while in their provincial legislature they've got about 4 and 5 people who participated in the VBS, but they've put them on strategic positions. Why can't they just start in Limpopo, particularly from the municipality that I'm from, which is Setakumutiwa? They invested about 231 million and lost this money. They didn't recover any cent from that particular municipality. And the person who was the mayor at that time is sitting in provincial legislature. He was number 4 in the list of the previous election. Yeah. Why can't he just start in Limpopo and focus on Limpopo? Because in Limpopo we've got about 4 to 5 municipalities who have lost about, in aggregate, over 500 million that has been lost to VBS.
Yeah, no, so, I can't argue with you there, Letabile, that the negligence and the callousness of those municipalities is unforgivable. They had been warned that you're not allowed to invest in a mutual bank, but from the words of the Reserve Bank at the time, it seemed as if the more the warnings were issued, the more they increased the pace of investing unlawfully into VBS. That is Letabile out in Limpopo. They're talking accountability for those who were at the forefront of the VBS Mutual Bank saga. Just after 8:30, let's check in with Ann Musa now for a news headlines update.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the DA in Tshwane says the recent remarks by Action SA's Tshwane chairperson regarding the removal of Celia Brink proves that the party is using the review process to buy time to find an alternative party to work with. 7 people have been killed in a shooting at high flats in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands overnight. Police confirmed children were among the victims who were massacred in one house. And 6 employees from the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees are among those killed in Israeli strikes on a school housing displaced families in central Gaza. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still very heavy on the Mike 1 North with a crash at Parktown a little bit earlier by the Oxford Road. Extra traffic stays under pressure from as far back as Gold Reef City. That run up through Boysons, through the Crown, through Bramford and into Parktown. Very heavy behind that. The M2 West in to join that Mike 1 back as far as Benrose. If you're avoiding that Crown and heading up Houghton Drive, just be aware there's some delays that you'll be asked to sit in on Houghton Drive up towards the Mike 1 as well. Well, now Midrand looking particularly heavy. There's a breakdown before Allendale Road. That's keeping pressure right back through to Old Joburg Road. There's also been a crash on New Road coming out of Midrand towards the highway, so some additional delays there as well. Durban, if you're on that M7 heading towards the Bluff, big queues from Queensborough down towards the crash scene at the N2. The backlog of traffic back to Belleville Road. Usual breakdown with us on the N2 between Msanga and Kwamashu, so if you're Durban bound, that's a problem. N3 closed today. Pietermaritzburg Ashburton section 2:30 until 3. Make sure you're aware of that. Travelling before 2:30 or probably after about 3:15 to factor in the sort of resultant backlog of trucks that will need to clear during the closure. And Cape Town, the M7, Jake Scovell drive the crash after Vangate Mall up towards the N2 highway, causing a delay. Further up the N7, stays heavy from Ford Trekker Road right through to Bosman's Dam Road off-ramp. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
So Zai, the juggernaut that is the Springboks, surges forward, and in its sights now is Argentina, according to the captain.
Yes, Thulasizwe Simelane got his eyes on the prize, and if Argentina isn't careful, they might just get scrummed out of luck, because this is the much anticipated clash, with our captain Simelane expressing his excitement about taking on the Argentinians and the squad's drive to clinch another major title. The Springboks have won 4 from 4 in this competition. They sit on 18 points. Argentina are second on 10, with New Zealand third on 7. Australia prop up at the bottom of the table with 4 points. With 2 rounds of matches remaining, the Springboks can wrap up the title with a win against the host Argentina in Santiago. That's on the 21st of September. Let's hear from Springbok captain Simelane.
We still have a job to do, because you saw what Argentina did, in Australia. So they can also win the trophy. So we've got a lot to do, but it's a rugby championship. We haven't won a full, rugby championship. I've never won one. Short, full, nothing. So for us as a group, we want to make sure that we can win that and also keep them in South Africa. I think a lot of people always talk about that. We always win the World Cup, then we come back in between. We want to fight that. And the great thing about it, so many guys are getting opportunities. You're not seeing the same faces each and every single time, because I think time will go and more. And Coach Russ is creating depth in the team, and he's doing it while we're winning. And it's so good to see younger guys that are trusted.
That's Springbok captain Simelane on the morning brief. Let's go to Argentina. They've added a Vodacom URC winner to their 34-player squad for the Rugby Championship clash with the Springboks. Los Pumas coach Felipe Contepomi announced a bolstered 34-man squad for next Saturday's match. And this is when Argentina will look to keep alive their hopes of a first-ever Rugby Championship title. Argentina going to the match on the back of a record-breaking 67-27 victory over the Wallabies, which lifted the Pumas to within 8 points of the log-leading box with 2 games to go. Now, the Premier Soccer League has announced that this season's MTN8 final will be held at Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban after receiving bids from multiple provinces. KwaZulu-Natal emerged victorious, securing hosting rights for this highly anticipated match. It's set for Saturday on the 5th of October. The final will see Orlando Pirates take on Stellenbosch FC in what promises to be an epic clash. Now, both teams have a strong history at Moses Mabhida, with Pirates winning 3 previous finals there and Stellenbosch securing their first ever trophy last season. Meanwhile, the rift between Kylian Mbappe and his former club Paris Saint-Germain deepens as the France striker rejected mediation in the row over wages and bonuses. Mbappe is demanding over $60 million despite moving to Real Madrid in the summer. He says he's owed the money as a signing bonus, his final 3-month salary, and an ethical payment. Now, the case is likely to be settled by an employment court. And finally, motorsport. All 10 Formula One teams respected the cost cap on their chassis manufacturing in 2023. Although engine manufacturers Alpine and Honda both breached procedural regulations, while all 10 F1 teams were found in compliance, there were unspecified breaches for 2 of the 4 engine manufacturers, Alpine and Honda, who supplied AlphaTauri and the world champions Red Bull. More sport here on SFM comes to you around 12:30 with John Hediker. For the morning brief, I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
And for that, we turn to Ndauling Lechela, who's got the latest for you. And Ndauling, we're looking at company news this time around, but mostly to do with resources and the mining sector. Let's start with Anglo. They are starting to offload their platinum unit.
That's right, Tula. So this comes following an announcement made in June where Anglo said it would sell its majority stake in Anglo American Platinum as part of a wider restructuring plan after it rejected BHP's takeover bid. In a move that supports this plan, Anglo sold 13.9 million shares of Amplats for 515 apiece, making 7.2 billion rand. This sale increases the number of Amplats shares available for public trading and accounts for about 5.3% of Amplats shares that were owned by Anglo. Now, Bloomberg intelligence analysts were quite surprised by the sale price, saying the shares were sold at a 20% discount, considering where Amplats was trading at over a 30-day period, and that this may signal that the company is losing value during its restructuring process. Now, the move knocked Amplat's share price in yesterday's trade. It closed over 11% lower at 506 Rand per share. Over a one-year period, the share price is down about 19%. Now, PGM miners like Amplats have been facing a number of challenges due to lower metal prices. Over its last reporting period, earnings declined 18%, and sentiment in that market has also been dampened by the global move we've been seeing to greener metals, including the likes of copper and nickel, which has resulted in less capital being spent on PGM miners.
And some news as well from Pan-African Resources, and that has to do with earnings off the back of high gold prices.
Another case of all that glitters is gold to us. Now, Pan-African Resources has delivered a 30% jump in earnings. That's as it benefited from elevated gold prices and higher production. During the period, output increased by 6%, and the average gold price rose 11%. The company's CEO, Kobus Lutz, says it's making good progress on its growth plans. Two important projects are being focused on: the 24 to 25 level project at Evander Mines and the Mogale Tailings Retreatment Project. Now, the Mogale project that houses the Mintails operations was hit by Zamazamas around 2022, which destroyed a lot of its infrastructure there. Pan-African Resources has now confirmed that the Mogale project is almost complete and should be fully up and running by December. It's also expected to cost less and finish sooner than expected. It's set to improve overall production, adding up to 60,000 ounces of gold to the group that produces almost 190 ounces currently.
And Dowling, off the back of Asian markets and what's to come with the U.S. futures, what kind of a trading day are we looking at on the JSE?
Well, local markets are in for an upbeat start following positive economic data we saw overnight. Quite a lot of news that will influence markets as well, local news that is. Mining production numbers will be released today, giving us an idea of how that sector performed at the beginning of the third quarter. And then there'll be earnings reports from Lesaka Technologies and Linda First Rand. These will be the first set of results under new CEO Mary Vilagazi. It'll be interesting to hear her views on the local banking landscape as well as the economy. So lots that'll be influencing markets as mentioned. Over in the currency scene, the rand remaining steady, still trading at 17.89 to the dollar. In Wall Street, futures are in positive territory as the sentiment on risky assets improves following those inflation numbers that showed that consumer prices are slowing. Shifting focus to Asian markets, they're on track to close in the green. Traders there digesting hawkish comments from the Bank of Japan, which support the move to perhaps hike rates again in that region. We also saw Chinese chip makers post gains following upbeat comments about the AI industry from NVIDIA's CEO.
All right, thank you for that, Ndauling. Have yourself a fantastic day. Ndauling Lechela has been watching all things business, economics, and the markets for you throughout the morning here on the Morning Brief.
The way wait is finally over, and we can safely say that Tropica Island of Treasure is back to serve you some really great entertainment. Tune into S3 from the 28th of September to cheer on the 7 teams who will be vying to win a shared prize of 1 million rand, a brand new car each, and become the champions of Tropica Island of Treasure Season 11. Fancy 50,000 bucks? Predict the champions of Tropica Island of Treasure, and you might be sipping that cold, refreshing Tropica all the way to the bank. Follow at MyTropica and at SABC3 for more information. Channel your inner champion with Tropica Island of Treasure. Starts Saturday the 28th of September at 6:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
At Specsavers, we're committed to offering affordable and professional eye care. That's why we're offering 1,500 Rand worth of savings with our winter promotion. Get a free frame up to the value of 1,500 Rand, or use the 1,500 Rand on one of our leading lens enhancements. To qualify, simply purchase a comprehensive eye examination and prescription frame and lenses. Book online or call your nearest store today. Specsavers, for affordable eye care and a whole lot more. T's and C's apply.
Becoming Elizabeth is the fascinating story of the early life of England's most iconic queen. With no clear heir, the death of King Henry VIII sets into motion a dangerous scramble for power. Elizabeth's fascinating and factual journey to secure the crown is filled with scheming, betrayal, and illicit relationships that threaten to bring forth her demise. At a time in which every man or woman of the court is on the wheel of fortune, which may take them to a position of great power one moment, or the executioner's block the next. Channel your inner royalty with Becoming Elizabeth, Saturdays at 9:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
EFC is live this Thursday. The bantamweight title is on the line, live from the World Sports Betting Arena, as the top-ranked divisional contenders and perennial fan favorites Faiz Jacobs and Vince Bembe go to war.
Oh, big right for Faiz Jacobs. The finish, and it's over. What a win. When he smells blood, he hunts mercilessly for the finish.
EFC is live this Thursday. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
You're listening to the morning brief here on SAFM. So around this time daily, what we try and do is to be conscious and basically purposeful about being balanced and fair to people whose names or entities come up in some of the conversations that we have on a daily basis. We try and give the right of reply to someone who would have been affected by some of the comments made, and we call that explain and verify. So let's do exactly that. You will have heard a conversation, I think it was yesterday, with the company Shared Economy Affiliates South Africa C that were alleging that their contract with the National Health Laboratories Service was terminated unlawfully to serve the interests of particular people and leadership within the NHLS. And we did undertake that we would get the NHLS to respond and put their side of the story on the table. We don't have them yet, but we will want to just give you a sense of where we are with that. The NHLS says they're basically asking for more time to investigate, and they will come back to us following that call. That was from Vatuka, from the company called C, Shared Economy Affiliates. So NHLS will come back to us and respond to those allegations that were made against them. Also yesterday, we had the caller from Matlosana, Pesi, who was talking about a group called Khatfol in the area of Matlosana, and basically alleging that they are part of the extortion problem in that area, and that there's a specific person, that person named, that is said to be the mastermind around the issues of extortion in the area. To respond to those claims and allegations, we're joined now by Uleboheng Ramakwati, who is the spokesperson for the Gatfall Group in Matlosana. Good morning, Uleboheng. You heard the call yesterday. What is your response that to the claim that the Gatfall Group is actually at the heart of the problems of extortion in Matlosana?
Good morning to you, Thulasizwe, and your listeners. Yes, we heard the call yesterday. We heard the caller that what he explained yesterday. I'm calling here. Yes, I'm Uleboheng Ramakwati from Mafikeng, here in the northwest province here. And then I'm a Gatfall spokesperson. As a Gatfall spokesperson, we are firstly going to repudiate claims that we are extortionists or else construction mafias, because we are based here in Mafikeng, but we are a provincial institution. By so saying, Gatfall is an amalgamated business people who are fed up and Gatfall because of being spectators in our own backyards. We are business people, highly recognized by the 7th administration of Northwest Provincial Government. We were even invited for the State of Province address. We were also invited to the budget speech of almost all of the MECs in the 7th administration. So we are not associated to extortions unless if there is any different explanation of extortion.
So,
because that's okay, sir?
Yes, you're saying so. You are an amalgamation of business entities and business people who are Gatfall with being spectators to the economy. In fact, I will ask you a question now to respond to how exactly you are expressing your frustration with being spectators, as you put it, to economic activity. But let me ask you to pause there for a moment. Let me take the traffic and then come back, and then we can complete our conversation properly.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Yeah, very good morning. Latest on the Mike 1 through Crown interchange, which has been very heavy for motorists trying to work through central Joburg this morning. It stays that way. Gold Reef City right through to Oxford Road is a major delay getting up through the Crown, and behind that the M2 from Joe Slovo really struggling to get into that crowd. You might want to avoid those routes. If you are avoiding the M2 and going to go through sort of Hillbrow and park that up towards the Mike 1, just know there's a really big backlog on Houghton Drive as you come up towards the Mike 1 highway. Also expect a queue coming into Sandton off the N3, Marlborough Drive through that Marlborough Gardens area. There's now been a crash on the N1 South at New Road, so that traffic that was backed up with an earlier breakdown stays heavy from as far back as the old Johannesburg Road to exit. Durban, we've been tracking delays. If you're bluff-bound on the M7 through Queensborough, that crash scene at the N2 still there. Also now a crash between Umhlanga and Kumashu on the N2 going south into Durban, holding things up. Cape Town's N7, Jakes Curville Drive, unusually backed up for this time of morning. Big queues coming up from Goodwood all the way through to Bosmansdam Road. And the M5 that was queuing around Wetton Road Bridge earlier this morning, that's all eased up. But the M5 queuing through Rondebosch to get into the N2 to Hospital Bends. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
For 18 years, Kumbulekaya has been fostering healing through forgiveness and reconciliation.
Are you asking me that? Yes. I grew up without a mom.
So what happened to your family?
What family? You are my family. What happened to you?
Witness as families forgive one another and reunite after a long time. Catch the new season of Kumbulekaya on SABC1 every Wednesday at 9 p.m.
Are you blowing your paycheck on car insurance every month? Monica, 39 from Three Rivers, pays just 1,515 Rand a month for her 2018 BMW 320i.
Give Outsurance a call. It's a win-win. You can't lose.
Real savings, real benefits. Here's Yusuf.
Help it out. The service was quick. Absolutely phenomenal service from Outsurance.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
After cutting the Buccaneers' continental journey short last season, Botswana Giants, Jwaneng Galaxy, want to make beating the black and white outfit a good habit. They meet again, but Sir Rivero's boys plan to take full control at Botswana National Stadium. This is the second preliminary round of the Total Energies CAF Champions League. Experience great vibes of African football. Jwaneng Galaxy FC versus Orlando Pirates FC this Saturday, 14 September at 4 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, let's complete that conversation with Uleboheng Ramakwati, who is the spokesperson for the organization known as Gatfall in the Northwest. So earlier on, Uleboheng, you were talking about how you are an amalgamation of business groupings and business people who are, quote-unquote, Gatfall and tired of being spectators within the economy. How exactly do you express that? Let me say, for example, if I ran an entity that does construction and I got an award to build a bridge somewhere in Mahikeng because, I don't know, perhaps I have capacity and I can deliver, but I don't live in the Northwest, what would be your expectations of me as a contractor there?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Simelane. Let me first say that we are the agents of change. We advocate for the people of our province to get a fair share in the economy of our province. By so saying, we visit briefing sessions before going to a construction site. We visit briefing sessions and we highlight red tapes to the management. Then we write formal letters to the department for them to make sure that the Northwest people are not left out. Because there's this tendency that we, the people of Northwest, do not have capacity. And then public works, like for example, we have done that before. We have written a formal letter cordially so to the Department of Public Works, telling them about the red tapes which are prohibiting the people of the Northwest to take part in some of their tenders. And they gladly did that. They managed to make sure that they accommodate all of us as the SMMEs in the province. Because
yes.
Yes.
So I hear your processes then, writing formal letters, talking about red tape, and you talk about attending briefing sessions. I want to focus, though, on going to construction sites, which is what you're saying you do. What do you do there? You can do what you do and ensure the participation of Northwest residents. I don't see what requires you actually physically going to a construction site. What do you do when you get there?
Maybe you didn't get me. What I said we do not visit construction sites. Us, we only engage with the management because we also repudiate this thing of construction of extortion. We are not extortionists. And so we ended up being targeted as the people as try to label us as extortionists. But we want to clear that we are not extortionists. We cordially engage with government. If we were construction mafias or extortionists, we wouldn't be having such a relationship with the Northwest provincial government.
All right. I've got to leave it there. Uleboheng Ramakwati there. I think we are as clear as we can, and we've given you the opportunity to respond to the allegations that you are actually at the heart of the construction delays and construction mafia and extortion matters in the Northwest, coming out clearly and saying that you are not part of that problem. Let's speak to Willie, who is out in the Northwest. And Willie, you want to respond to the conversation that we've been having with Uleboheng. Good morning. Willie, can you hear me? Willie out in the Northwest? No, it doesn't seem like we have Willie in the Northwest. Wanted to respond to the conversation that we've been having with Uleboheng Ramakwati, who is denying that the group called Gatfall is at the heart of the construction problems, construction mafia problems, as well as extortion. You will have heard from Uleboheng denying that they are part of the problem. Let's see if we can hear from Harold out in Middelburg. And Harold, do you want to talk about the situation in the Northwest as well?
Yes, how are you, Tulani?
Very well, how are you?
I'm good, man. It's unfortunate you let the guy go, man. There was a video circulating where these guys, they were intimidating people in municipality there, asking them, are you a person of Northwest? If you are not from Northwest, you are not supposed to work in this municipality. Even that guy responded and said, no, I was born in Northwest. He said, oh, I thought you were a Xhosa. We're going to chase you out of this municipality. So now he's lying now on the radio now, saying they are not intimidating people in the construction site.
I see.
It's totally lies. Politicians, they have this tendency of lying.
So you're saying this is actually on video. I did not see that video. But
yeah, there's a video.
Yeah.
I can send that video, and I can send you on WhatsApp, on the SAFM WhatsApp. Then tomorrow I can call again, so that guy can come back again. You must stop lying.
Yeah. All right. No, we would appreciate you sharing that video. But of course, these situations are always murky. Thank you, Harold, for that. Harold out in Middelburg talking about that response that came from Uleboheng Makwati about the allegation that the organization called Gatfall is actually at the heart of the construction mafia as well as extortion activities in the Northwest. In fact, Percy is calling once again from the Northwest. And Percy, you heard the conversation with Uleboheng. What is your response?
Uleboheng is lying. We don't have service delivery because of Gatfall. There is a guy called, is the president of Gatfall, called Khadina Bokao, is the NEC member of Sanko. Those guys, Khadina Bokao doesn't have a pay slip. He's driving a beautiful BMW. Those guys, they are tolerating those service providers. Here in Northwest, he's lying, that guy.
So I think the solution, Percy, would be, I presume that there's a significant amount of people of influence in law enforcement and in government in the Northwest. Here's a challenge to the entirety of the Northwest government, the provincial SAPS. This is a matter where the residents, some residents of the Northwest, have given you leads to investigate and deal with this matter. It would be refreshing to hear from someone from the Northwest government saying that we have checked on these claims around this group called Gatfall, and here are our findings. I think the residents of the Northwest and citizens generally deserve at least that to be done. And that's how we come to the end of this edition of the Morning Brief here on SAFM. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, DA Tshwane reacts to remarks by Action SA's Tshwane chairperson, and 6 UNRWA staff killed in an Israeli attack in Gaza. Good morning. The DA in Tshwane says recent remarks by Action SA's Tshwane chairperson regarding the removal of Celia Brink proves the party is using the review process to buy time to find an alternative party to work with. The party accuses Jackie Matabate of posting a social media message predicting the DA's golden boy would be ousted in 16 days. DA Tshwane caucus spokesperson Kwena Muloto says this proves the review process outcome has been predetermined.
We've got internal mechanisms inside the coalition where political parties that form part of the coalition can raise concerns. Action SA hasn't used any of those mechanisms in the run-up to this process. They keep on saying they are just reviewing the coalition after the election, which would be fine if that was genuinely their intention, but it's clear that they're not. They've gone on a social media attack, literally on a daily basis, are going around the city of Tshwane and posting service delivery failures and saying that the DA doesn't care about townships. They're acting as if they haven't formed part of this government for 3 years.
Moloto says Action SA is gunning for the mayoral position for personal interest and not for the interest of the people of Tshwane. He says comments by Action SA's caucus leader that they want to remove white monopoly capital proves they are willing to work with only one party, which he says is the EFF.
They've gone on the smear campaign of a government they formed part of for 3 years, and it's very unfortunate because, just a month and a half ago, the same caucus leader that's now saying that he wants to remove white monopoly capital was releasing statements talking about all the great work that we're doing in the city of Tshwane together, and it's what we believe. For us, this doesn't seem to have anything to do with service delivery. It has nothing to do with the residents and everything to do with Action SA attempting to take the mayorship for personal gain.
7 people have been killed in a shooting at high flats in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands overnight. Police spokesperson Robert Nechiunda has confirmed children were among the victims who were massacred in one house. Premier Tamin Tuli has called on police in the province to leave no stone unturned to bring the perpetrators to book. Top police officials and provincial leaders are expected to visit the scene today. The case against Pastor Paseko Mboro Motsweneng will continue at the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court on Gauteng's East Rand today. The self-proclaimed prophet, his bodyguard and son are facing charges of kidnapping, illegal possession of firearm, discharging a firearm and assault. Mboro's lawyer, Advocate Philip Dlamini, denied that his client carried a firearm on the day of the incident, saying it was in fact a replica.
We have find new evidence that is not a Schedule 5. Your Worship, a Schedule 5 semi-automatic rifle. They don't say what type of a rifle. They talk about bullets, but the accused are not charged of ammunition. The applicant are not charged with the ammunition. All those things are misleading the court.
And finally, 6 employees from the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees are among those killed in Israeli strikes on a school housing displaced families in central Gaza. UNRWA says it was the deadliest attack among its staff in a single incident. The Israeli military said it was targeting Hamas fighters operating a command center in the grounds. Haneh Haniyeh, who is an internally displaced person from Gaza, was in the building when it was hit.
Body parts, the sound of an explosion shook the building. We went out running and saw body parts thrown everywhere in the shelter. Unfortunately, my children are still missing. 4 of my children, I do not know where they are. I do not know where my daughters are. Even my wife was sleeping here in this corner. Where is my wife? I don't know where my wife is.
Recapping the top story, the DA in Tshwane says recent remarks by Action SA's Tshwane chairperson regarding the removal of Celia Brink proves the party is using the review process to buy time to find an alternative party to work with. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's your news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Assurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS car to 43187.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to celebrate the rich tapestry of our nation's diverse cultures. From the vibrant beats of our traditional music to the flavors of our unique cuisines, every culture tells a story of strength, unity, and identity. We honor the heroes and heroines who laid down their lives for our freedom, reminding us that our shared heritage is what makes us strong. Together as one, we celebrate who we are because our culture is our identity. This Heritage Month, let's celebrate every culture, every story, and every voice.
Here's good news for you and your older car. With Assurance Essential, a 22-year-old woman pays only 384 Rand a month for her 2012 white Kia Picanto 1.2X and gets paid cash so she can choose her own panel beater after an accident. Get the cover you need. Get Assurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 125,000 Rand. It's time to switch and save. SMS car to 4 43187. That's car to 43187 today. Our insurance is a licensed insurer and FSP, T's, C's, and information online.
The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
When you and others in black consciousness speak, you say, our true leaders have been banned and imprisoned on Robben Island. Who are you referring to specifically?
Specifically, we refer to people like Mandela, Sobukwe, people like Goban Mbeki.
And is it not true that the common factor with these people is that they have advocated violence against the South African government?
The common factor with these people is that they have selflessly pushed forward the struggle of the black man.
So, your answer to this so-called naked terrorism is to provoke violence in the black community.
No, our movement seeks to avoid violence.
But your own words call for direct confrontation.
That's right. We demand confrontation.
Isn't that a demand for violence?
Well, you and I are now in confrontation, but I see no violence.
But nowhere in these documents do you say that the white government is doing anything good?
Well, it does so little good, my lord, that it is not worth commenting on.
Surely that approach inflames racial hatred and anti-whiteism.
My lord, blacks are not unaware of the hardships they endure or what the government is doing to them. We want them to stop accepting these hardships, to confront them. People must not just give in to the hardships of life. They must find a way, even in this environment, to develop hope. Hope for themselves, hope for this country. Now, I think that is what black consciousness is all about. Now, without any reference to the white man, to try and build up a sense of our own humanity, our legitimate place in the world.
The voice of Denzel Washington there playing the role of Stephen Bantu Biko in the 1987 movie Cry Freedom. And today, of course, marking the 47th anniversary of Biko's death in detention. And that particular film, of course, based on the life and times of the black consciousness leader, Steve Biko and Gavin Woods. Yeah, what a day, right? And so many of what, or rather so much rather, of what Steve Biko stood for. And you hear then that clip, hopes about the country. It's still so relevant today. I think it still would resonate and very much resonates with many South Africans today. What an icon and what a voice who still lives through his writing. At least for those who bother to go and read what it is that he stood for and his message around black consciousness. It's 10 after 9 o'clock. Welcome to the show. I'm Kathy Motlatlana and with you until midday. Coming up on the show today, we will kick it off with the open line as we always do. And of course, I'll be taking your calls on matters that you may want to put on the National Roundtable. Today is a Thursday, so we'll be getting into Municipal Watch in the second hour of the show. We're going to be focusing on the Matatiele local municipality. We'll be dealing with some of the issues that have been raised there. It's now been over a year since we last focused on Matatiele, and at the time there were a number of issues raised in the community, including that video that went viral of young children crossing a river just to get to school. And I mean, these are children that were as young as 5, 6, some of them having to cross this river. So we're going to revisit that area, find out what has happened since. So do stay tuned for that conversation. And then in the final hour of the show, we're going to have an interesting conversation, and it's going to be around the use of language, but in particular, cross-language use in South African languages. So you'll find words that seem to go across the board. So there are words we use in English, there are words we use in Afrikaans, in isiZulu, in Sesotho, but that are actually, originally from other languages. And it's quite a phenomenon in a country like South Africa, where, of course, we've got 12 official languages. So we'll have that conversation with Professor Nogwaja Zulu from the University of KwaZulu-Natal. He'll be breaking it down, and it's part of just the conversations we'll be having this month for Heritage Month, or rather as we mark Heritage Month. So getting then into our open line, tomorrow certainly will be a telling moment, particularly for the future of the Government of National Unity. That's if the statements from the Democratic Alliance are anything to go by, if they're to truly be trusted. The party, of course, is warning President Cyril Ramaphosa not to sign the Bella Bill. And one could say they're throwing their toys, because they've warned that if he signs the Bella Bill, then the Government of National Unity will be under threat. And part of the insinuation there is that, they would then think about whether they actually want to stay in this Government of National Unity. Of course, we knew that the DA has long been opposed to the Bella Bill. It was an issue that they were very vocal about in as far as the opposition to this bill is concerned, including, when it was still being thrashed through within the legislative arm and that thrashed through at least in the National Assembly. So if we come back to the bill, because I think a lot is being said about the fact that there is opposition, but what is this bill about? And what does it really seek to do? Maybe if you'll give me and just bear with me for a moment to just run through some of the key issues around the Bella Bill. And of course, Bella being the Basic Education Laws Amendment 2022 bill. And it amends certain sections of the South African Schools Act. It focuses on the administrative and management processes at school level. Some of the key changes that will come in will include making grade R compulsory for all learners, revising the admission and language policies of schools, addressing school disruptions, regulating homeschooling, and also strengthening governance and accountability. Of course, there is a broader breakdown of what exactly that entails, but by and large, and on the aspects that the DA is fighting, the first one, of course, seems to be around the issue of language in schools. The bill revises the admission and language policies of schools, and it transfers that decision-making authority to from school governing bodies to the head of department within the education department. The DA is arguing that this is stripping schools, communities, and parents of their power to make decisions around their children's lives. And you can imagine this comes from the debate that we have also seen and the discrimination that we have also seen around admission practices, particularly in your former Model C schools. So the bill aims then to centralize the decision making to the head of department within the provincial education departments, and the DA saying that that is a very bad idea. It is stripping parents of their powers. Of course, it also goes further in as far as preventing unnecessary disruptions to schools, and we see them mostly when there are community protests and schools getting disrupted, or really for any other reason. And it seeks then to actually criminalize the disruptions of schools.